Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing or mine.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on a Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome, everybody, to the 492nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. With me today, Steve Wellings, Andy Patterson. I'm your host, Matt DiGelinardo. And apparently I am in the minority. It was just me and the two judges who thought that fight was close last night, it seems, as everybody overwhelmingly thinks it was incredibly wide, despite the 116, 112, and 2 115, 113 scorecards. Andy, you weren't throwing darts during part of the fight, so I'm going to go to you first. It was an interesting fight in the way, and the judges didn't agree on a whole lot on that fight, except for a couple of stretches. They thought that 2 through 5 were Canelo's, and then there was a little bit of movement in a couple of rounds, but in the last 4 rounds, they all thought that one way or another Golovkin won 3 of the last 4. And believe it or not, that leaves 4 rounds in there that are open for interpretation. You interpret them one way, I did the other. State your case.
State my case. I just don't think Triple G was active enough early half and the middle half of that fight to even earn a draw. I gave him the last 3 rounds, and that was the only 3 rounds I gave him. To be fair, he just looked to me like we mentioned it last week. He's a 40-year-old guy past his prime against a younger guy who is probably now looking to be over the past of his prime. To be fair, Triple G just kind of like looked on the jab. It wasn't authoritative very early. It wasn't tripling it up like he normally does. It wasn't getting a lot of power behind it. He seemed to be very negative, from the off. He was really worried about those counter shots that maybe Canelo was going to come back at him with, especially the kind of left hooks that he was throwing. And he can rip it to the body, as everybody knows. I thought it was far more technical than the previous couple of fights, at least. And I thought it was a poor fight, mate. To be fair, the whole the build up, but people were hyped for it. I wasn't particularly kind of over enamoured to see it, but we watched it, and it was just a damp squid for me. That's all it was. I thought Canelo, for the first 9 rounds of that fight, he was well in the lead, and then I think he just took his foot off whatever gas he had left, tried to coast it out. I thought there were a lot of rounds in there. It was similar, maybe the kind of mid half, maybe we were about the 5 and 6, possibly maybe even the 7th. It just seemed to kind of take a kind of similar kind of similar path. Basically, it was just kind of like worrying, as I said, mentioned that Triple G was kind of more worrying about those counters. Even the comms that I listened to, at least, which we'll get to, is a bit of a complaint on the zone, but even they were saying that Golovkin just looks old. And as I said, there's a 40-year-old guy well past his prime. He can't get the trigger. He can't pull the trigger, sorry. He can't get his shots off. And it says it took Jonathan Banks to kind of say, well, listen, we need to go for it now. We need to, and that's when he started stepping up around about round 9.
I loved what he said between 8 and 9, where he said, "Fuck him! This is the Triple G show," and like yes, and it did, and there was a notable. That was when there was a notable change in the tide. In
round
that
9,
one.
it was. I think it was just before the start of the 9th. He was told to up it, and he did. He did up it a little bit, but I thought still in round 9, Canelo was just doing a little bit better. I thought his work was slightly cleaner, and up to that point, at least round 9, I think round 9 turned out to be one of the best rounds of that fight, and that's not saying much because there wasn't much to kind of write home about in those first 8 rounds. Round 10, probably, as I say, is maybe Triple G's best round of the fight. First round of the fight is my scorecard goes at least. And I thought he was a wee bit more consistent with his work this time. Tripled up in the jab, got the jab pumping, looking for right hands, was stepping forward, wasn't worrying about counters, stood his ground. And Canelo was maybe just looking for a wee breather round about this point. Again, 11th and 12th, maybe Golovkin was a wee bit busier, but it was just too late. You know, no point in this fight was ever close to a knockout. No guy looked to seem to be seriously hurt. Maybe Golovkin maybe got hurt maybe once. It was visibly seen to the body maybe once. But other than that, it was Canelo just kind of like in the latter half of that fight just kind of stayed out of harm's way. I think in round 12 he was doing a little bit of grappling, a little bit of holding, and just kind of slightly paced himself. So yeah, that's just basically that. I think just part of me is exhausted with some of these matchups we've been getting lately. There's not many good fights out there, or fights that we've been getting at least. So as I say, Canelo didn't look too great either. To be fair, I'm not going to put all the blame at Triple G's door because he's fought and he's past his prime. Canelo, as we mentioned, he's up in age. He's a long pro career. I think people are now seeing him begin to slide now a little bit as well. I'm not going to say the scorecards are fairish. I mean, I can get it if there's a couple of close rounds in there. You're seeing it differently. Ringside, you can see a whole different story. But I thought Canelo was more than a wide winner. I had it 117, 111. I don't know if I already mentioned that actually, but it just lacked there was no fireworks. There was no, for a fight or for a guy like Canelo coming in talking away what he did, it just never caught fire for me, and it kind of showed that. To be fair, so as I say, he didn't look great. Canelo up after about 5 rounds, and Triple G just, as I say, he just looked slow. And they look worried about getting countered and maybe just kind of wary of Canelo's power a little bit, and maybe just kind of pace himself to see out the fight and try and take as little damage as possible. But as I say to you as well, look, early half of that fight, just before we came on there, I was mentioning that Golovkin had been marked up pretty quick in that fight. We're about round 2, round 3, slight red marking around about the eye, maybe high in the head and that as well. It's just all it is, mate. He's finished. He's past his prime. It's sad to see it, but it is what it is. That's just the fact for me.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll get into the scores and the judges' scorecards specifically a little bit after this. But Steve, I think the one thing that you can say, and I think what's interesting is we know when a fight is big, or we know when people were excited by the result oftentimes by the number of people who tune into us the next day. And these are pretty tepid numbers for a bigger fight. And that's kind of my barometer is even though it got a little bit more interesting with the better rounds were later in the fight, the fans are just pretty indifferent to this match following this trilogy overall.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by the numbers. I noticed that as well. Only 7,500 at the moment. I usually expect to double that on a big fight like this. But I'm actually going to start off, Matty, by giving Golovkin a little bit of credit for taking this fight. And I'll tell you why. Because we wondered beforehand, last week we spoke about it. We went on the Nuthouse on Friday night as well. What actual state was Golovkin in? Was he really as bad as we thought? And in my eyes, he's clearly shot now. Not to bits. He's not shot to bits. I've seen people in worse conditions. But he's shot nonetheless, I think. He can't pull the trigger anymore. His punch resistance is questionable. He can't sustain attacks. He can't put anything together, basically. And he's come in last night. He's got a hefty payday by being a high-class survivor, in my eyes. Even when he came forward, he was fighting every round in survival mode. He just didn't commit to anything. And how on earth the judges, and you with great respect, Matthew, host of the podcast that you are, came to a 115, 113 conclusion, or even worse, is just beyond me, because maybe excessive jabbing, poor in right hands, maybe those things are in vogue these days, but I was disappointed with Golovkin. Really disappointed. I mean, watch round 11 as an example. Golovkin came forward in that round more than he had done in the whole fight, but he was always on his heels. You watch him in round 11, he was ready to spring back out of range at any point. He never committed to anything all night in fear of the speed of Canelo and getting counter-shotted. And as for Canelo himself, Andy mentioned it as well there, he was able to coast for the majority of the fight. He didn't look great either. And ironically, we spoke about open scoring last weekend. Open scoring might have given Canelo the rocket up the arse he needed, because after he'd heard those scores after 8 rounds, he might have realised how shockingly close the fight was, and he might have gone out for the knockout. But I suppose the most damning indictment I could give for this fight, you've already outed me. It was boring. I thought there was no intrigue whatsoever. After about round 7 and 8, I was up throwing darts, turned the TV to one side. It was a struggle to get through. I'd seen enough by that point. I just wanted the final bell. The whole card, as we're going to get to, wasn't great. I thought it was quite uncompetitive overall. And Canelo was just in against a neutered opponent, a guy who's not able to pull the trigger. It wasn't competitive. The only interest was to see whether Canelo could stop him. He couldn't. Golovkin was too clever, standing in range, doing nothing, waiting for Canelo to tee off on him. Did Triple G even land a body shot all night? Maybe 5 at the most if he did. Everything was over the top. Nothing came underneath, nothing to the chest. He had no ability to throw combinations. He couldn't sustain anything. And that jab is as solid as ever, but the single shots aren't going to beat Canelo. We saw him against Bivol. It's punches in bunches. And in the 3rd round, I just thought, Golovkin ain't winning this. He just looked shredded to me. Sean Porter was on the mic for DAZN calling for more jabs. He'd thrown nothing but jabs. He's just a guy whose physique is no longer able to respond to do what it was able to do. He was too safe, too predictable. Canelo was slipping in. He was throwing off the brakes. Golovkin was just jab, 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 upright, nothing out of the ordinary. No variety, pulling his shots. He was just afraid to let his hands go.
But yeah, I mean, clearly still hitting hard enough that Canelo just couldn't go for the kill.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Canelo says he broke his hand, his left hand, I believe, too. But
talking about that, Matty, what I will say is, Canelo, he does these little sneaky little moves, doesn't he, all the time? Like he throws these shots to the hips and that. I noticed he threw a lot of shots to the hips, which must be a legal shot. I know he has that shot to the arm kind of thing that he does to weaken people. A lot of the times he was twisting round and throwing to the hip. So maybe that was it, but it seemed to be the right hand, not the left hand. The referee didn't pick up on it. Golovkin didn't especially mention it. He's a bit of a trickster, I think, with those shots.
Called him a couple of times. He said that was behind the back, shots to the front, shots to the front.
Canelo likes doing that type of stuff. He does the exaggerated face off to the side as well to give the impression his opponents are missing. But I know he does like a sneaky shot, and maybe the elbow came down at some point and hurt his hand, damaged his hand. You might be right. Maybe that's why he didn't go for the kill. But I think if he was fit, he should have done.
Well, I'll tell you, the scorecards are interesting. And first, I'll start with mine. And I did go into this with a bent that I thought Canelo got benefit of the doubt in every single one of basically of the close rounds in their first 2 fights. And there's got to be some balance in the universe, okay?
You overthinking it, though.
So hold on. And let me ask you guys this before I start. Did enough happen in the first 2 rounds for anyone to be emotionally committed to either fighter winning those rounds in any sort of way? There you go. They were just, they were what they were, okay? And I scored the second for Golovkin. The 2 of the judges, the 115, 113 ones. Oh, this is a good stopping point right here. Actually, before I make a fool of myself, my scorecard, we have a great guest coming on here. A guest who in God knows how many different cities, in God knows how many different refs, against God knows how many different fighters, would have been crowned the heavyweight champion of the world. Yes, I'm talking about Otto Wallin. He is here with us. Otto, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you coming on. It seems like they're feeding you scrubs. Everyone's afraid to get in the ring with you. What's the story?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I don't know. I mean, I just keep training, keep working, and it's been a little bit hard to secure big fights lately, but I'm really hoping I can get one now before the end of the year. So, yeah.
Well, Dillian White sure did everything he could to get away from fighting you. You had the great performance against Fury. Then you beat Brazil over 12 rounds, clearly lopsided. And then everybody wants to avoid you at this point in time. Your promoter is keeping you active. But do you feel at this point in time that your performance against Fury only hurt your prospects moving forward because now people are scared to fight you?
No, I mean, that fight has not hurt me at all. I mean, I think that fight has been great for me. It was a loss, but it's been more like a win than anything. So I'm really happy with how that played out. But I will, of course, want the rematch. But yeah, like you said, I was going to fight Dillian Whyte last year. That would have been the perfect opportunity for me. And the winner was going to fight Fury again. So unfortunately, he pulled out and got to fight Fury anyhow and got knocked out. And yeah, that was a little bit upsetting. But, you know, sometimes in boxing, you got to have short-term memory and just got to move on. So now after that, I've had to take a couple stay busy fights, smaller fights, and then hopefully, like I said, get something bigger now before the end of the year.
Now, we have an interesting question here from Clouds Gaming, and he wants to know how hard Fury actually punches, because people say they don't look hard, but I mean he's plowing some of these guys over. What are his punches like in the ring compared to others?
I think that, you know, he's a big guy. Of course, he was what did he weigh against me? Around 260 maybe. So he's a big guy, you know, 6'9". So he has a lot of weight behind those shots, but I wouldn't call him a big puncher. I mean, he's a big puncher, but I wouldn't call him like a, you know, one punch knockout artist, even though he showed with Wilder and White that he can do that. But I mean, I've shared the ring with Joshua in sparring and in the amateurs, and I think that he is a bigger puncher. But Fury, he's a smart boxer. He's got a lot of skills, and maybe he's improving his punching power a little bit too. But I think that with Wilder and Dillian Whyte, I think that, you know, Wilder, he doesn't have the best chin. We could clearly see that with Fury. And then Dillian Whyte, I think he was the perfect style for him. So he handled the business good there.
Well, and I think that we unanimously believed on the podcast before the fight was canceled that you were going to beat Dillian Whyte. We thought that you had his number yourself there. Are you trying to maybe make that fight again, or is there somebody else on your radar where you think that the fight can actually get made?
Yeah, I would love that fight with Dillian Whyte. He's blocked me on Instagram for some reason. We never spoke there or anything, but I can't find him when I go looking for him. So I don't know, but no, I would love that fight. I think that's a good fight for me, and would be nice to fight over in the UK, especially since a lot of people there know me from fighting Fury. So I think I have a pretty good platform there, and I would like to work on that. And you know, Dillian Whyte, that's a fight I really want. And there's been some talks and rumors about a fight against Joshua, but we see if he's gonna fight Fury now, that's not gonna happen. But if he won't fight Fury, I think I could be one of the guys that would be in line for that.
I think that could be a really good fight. Do you personally do you think, other than yourself, do you think that Usyk is the guy who can give Fury trouble at heavyweight, or do you think he's just kind of get outsized and that Fury can really play the role of big man in that one?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. I wouldn't count Usyk out, but I mean, for sure Fury will be the favorite for me, yes, because of the size, and he has really good boxing skills. I know he knows how to use his size, and you know, Usyk being a smaller guy coming up from cruiserweight, even though he didn't look that small with Joshua, but Fury, you know, he's big, he leans on you, he knows how to use his weight, and he's a smart guy. Fury, he can box going backwards, fight coming forward. So I think that he probably beat Usyk, but I would never count him out though. It'd be really interesting to see that fight.
Yeah, I just, what you did that gave Fury a lot of trouble was you weren't afraid. You were taking punches well. You were picking them off as you closed the distance, and you made it an uncomfortable fight for him. You got a little dirty old school when you had to, stuff that a lot of people don't appreciate anymore. And I don't think that Usyk has that mentality where he's willing to kind of dig into the darker side of boxing to pull out the win and make Fury uncomfortable. If he's comfortable, you're not going to win.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a good assessment. I think that Fury, once he gets comfortable, he's really hard to fight. He starts dancing or, keeping his hands behind his back and stuff, or grabbing the rope and punching. So you don't want to let that happen. And you got to be aggressive with him, and you got to show him no respect. You got to take him out of that element of being comfortable, just boxing and having it his own way. And, it's a fight, so you're not there to make friends. So you got to do whatever you got to do to win the fight.
Absolutely. I always like Ricky Hatton said that this isn't a tickling contest, and we need to quit treating it as such, right? I believe Steve Wellings has a few questions for you. Steve.
Yes, thank you, Matty. Good evening, Otto. Thanks very much for joining us. My main question was, your coach, Joey Gamach, he once described you as one of the best boxers that he's ever trained. I was wondering what it's like working with Joey, because he seems to me like a really good tactician.
Yeah, thank you. He is. Joey, he has a lot of experience. He's been a 2-time world champion himself. And he had good people around him when he was fighting. He had, a great manager here from New York, Johnny Boss. And then he had good trainers and good people that I think that really taught him a lot about the ins and outs of boxing. And then after his career, he went and started training people and spent a lot of time with Emmanuel Stewart. So he paid... I think he picked a lot up there, and he was with him for a few years, training Andy Lee and other guys. So Joey, he's a really hard worker. He takes this very serious, and that's why he doesn't like to train a lot of fighters. So he has me right now. He has Joe Ward from Ireland. He has, he gets a lot of people that reaches out to him, wants to train with him, but he usually says no. And that's because he takes it so serious. So with me, for example, if I have a fight, he's going to be watching tapes of my opponent every day and night, every day, just really putting the work in. And I met Joey first when I turned pro. I was in Germany for a little bit, then I went to Denmark, and that's where I met Joey. And at one point he had 8 fighters, and it was just so much work for him. So that's why I think now he doesn't want to take a lot of guys on.
Yeah, my second question as well for you, Otto. You mentioned fighting there in Denmark and Germany. Obviously, Sweden is a country with a strong history of good heavyweights. You had Ingemar Johansson back in the day, who defeated Floyd Patterson. You had Attila Levin recently, Adrian Granat, who you defeated in 2018. But what does it mean to you to follow in the tradition, represent your country on the world stage, especially given the fact that professional boxing was banned for so long in Sweden?
Yeah, actually, I didn't even have it in mind really to fight in Sweden when I first turned professional. So I was lucky that, Sauerland, they picked me up over in Germany when I was an amateur. And I was in Sweden, they picked me up, the German promoter, and I had the chance to become a professional. And that was, there was not a lot of opportunity in Sweden. So I was really happy about that. And then following the footsteps with Ingemar Johansson and them, it's amazing. I'm proud to be from Sweden and to represent my country. And I grew up hearing stories about Ingo Johansson and different fights and other fighters we had. So we had a good tradition, but I think that, boxing took a big blow when it was forbidden for about 40 years.
Thank you. That's all from me. Thanks, Otto. Go ahead, Matty.
Andy, do you have a couple for Otto?
I just got the one question, Otto. Just obviously Steve mentioning there, obviously about the Swedish boxing ban. Obviously that's happened a number of times in Sweden over the last 50, 60 years. I think it's been 3 times as the sport's been banned in that country. What's the scene like these days, especially for amateurs? Because obviously pro boxing seemed to kind of start at 2006, I think it was, and you kind of took advantage of that because you were quite a very highly decorated amateur. How is the Swedish game these days? Because the professional scene doesn't seem to be picking up.
Yeah, we were doing pretty well. You got allowed again 2006, 2007, I think, but with a lot of restrictions. You could only fight for 4 rounds. And then I think it was 2015 that Eric Skoglund, the fighter that we had, him and his dad did a really big job working with the government, and they did a huge. They had played a huge part in bringing real boxing back to Sweden. So they, with all that work, they had Eric fight a first. I think he fought 10 rounds or 12 rounds, and that was the first time in 50 years at that time, I think. So they did a really good job, and we were gaining some momentum. We had Eric, we had a few different girls that were world champion. We had myself coming up and different guys, Anthony Yigit, and we had Badu Jack. He's been in America lately, but it kind of stalled a little bit. Eric got injured, and people got older. Some people retired, and hopefully we get another generation coming through now. And it's just hard. It's not a lot of opportunity there with bigger promoters.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can change and more guys can be picked up, because there is some good amateurs. I don't keep track as much anymore, but we had some good amateurs. We had 2 people, 1 girl, 1 guy at the last Olympics. So hopefully there'll be more opportunity with bigger promoters and people putting out fights.
I've got family in Norway, so obviously I follow the scene over there, and it's a kind of similar situation. There's certain rules in place. You can't have 12 rounders, for example. They try and cap it at 6 or 8 rounds. There's not really many professional events after Cecilia Brackhouse lost her titles. Was there any pressure after Eric Skoglund's injury from the government, possibly, of maybe bringing in another professional boxing man in Sweden?
Not that I know of. It's been kind of unfortunate, because he had a brain bleed. We had this other girl, Frida Wahlberg. She had one. So we haven't had that many professional boxers, but there's been a few people that had brain bleeds, which was very unfortunate, of course. But I never heard anything about another ban, which was good. Because I think it would be hard to ban boxing now, especially since MMA and UFC is doing well there also.
Yeah. Thanks for that. When you go, Maya.
Yeah, it seems like banning a combat sport is in a way it's kind of against the what could be the culture there. I mean, y'all are a lot of big guys there. It seems like you could add generations of heavyweight boxers. I mean, it's just you're built for the task at hand.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, sometimes when I hang out with Swedish people here, I remember that we're all so tall and big, kind of got to get away from that. But then, I was we just had an election in Sweden. So I went to the Swedish church here, I voted. And then, I noticed everybody's so tall, like me over there.
Yeah, and hopefully it can grow. I mean, it's just it's a great sport, and it always shocks me when it's been banned across the world. But keeping in that part of the world there, do you have any thoughts on if Robert Helenius has a chance against Deontay Wilder?
Yeah, I think he has a chance for sure. He's a big puncher, and we know Wilder doesn't have the best chin. I don't think so. But Robin might not have the best chin either, and Wilder is a huge puncher, so I think that's gonna be pretty interesting. But they've sparred before, so I got a feeling that Wilder wouldn't take that fight unless he knew that he was gonna beat Helenius. So we see what happens. But you gotta remember also that Wilder's coming off really hard fights with Fury, and we don't know how that's gonna affect him. So honestly, I think if Wilder hits him first, he'll win the fight. If Helenius hits Wilder first, then he might win the fight.
Yeah, I actually think that you could give Wilder fits yourself too, and it's specifically because I think Fury kind of found a bit of a soft spot behind his ear with more looping shots, and I kind of worry as a Deontay Wilder fan that you could do similarly to him. Have you thought about that? Have you noticed those particular punches, the ones that give him trouble?
Yeah, I think the biggest part is with somebody like Wilder, and I said this before the second Wilder Fury fight. I said that I think that somebody can come in there with Wilder, just pretty much run him over. I think that he doesn't have the best defense or anything, and Luis Ortiz and other guys was doing really well with him when they kept their hands busy. Then they got knocked out in the end, but I think that like I said, I felt like somebody could just come in there and be aggressive with him and win against him, and that's really what Fury did that second fight. He pretty much just ran him over.
Yeah, he tried boxing him and almost cost him a knockout loss in the 12th round, and he imposed himself on him. Totally different story. And they're talking about Ruiz against the winner of Wilder against Hellenius, and I can't see Ruiz doing anything against Wilder. He's big. He doesn't move his feet very quick. He can't stay at the end of Wilder's punches. He's going to get wrecked.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you see Ruiz. I think Ruiz is very good, but I don't think he's in the best shape because, now when he fought Ruiz, he did well. He knocked him down and everything, and then he takes 2 rounds off and doesn't do anything, and he didn't throw a lot of punches in that fight, and I would be worried against a guy like Wilder. I think that Ruiz, he could do well as long as he's active, but then when he takes breaks, he's just gonna let Wilder get set and take him out, I think.
Yeah, he can't throw 25 punches around and win that fight like he did against Ortiz. It's a shame. Does your promoter try working with the PBC to get you some of these fights? Because they have so much of the heavyweight talent, and if you're not aligned with them, you're kind of locked out of a lot of fights, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, after the Fury fight, I had a really nice deal with Showtime. So I fought Kaufman, I fought Brazil with them, and then they had trouble getting me fights because it would have to be PBC fighters. We would try to make those fights, and for some reason it couldn't be made. So then we got the offer to fight Dylan White because I had been out of the ring for like 8 months or something, couldn't get fights with the deal I had. So we talked to Showtime. They said, yeah, you can go ahead, take that Dylan White fight because we can't really get you fights anyhow. So I was gonna fight White, and then it didn't happen. So how things happen, but yeah, I think that the PBC guys, they seem to want to fight each other, and unless it's for a world title, I think.
Well, that's a pretty rough situation. You're trying to chase your way up back to a title opportunity, and you just end up in the wrong position there. But it does seem like your promoter, Dimitri Salita, it does seem like he, God honestly, has his heart in it, and he tries to do right by his fighters. Do you consider him one of the more honest people in boxing from your time around the sport?
Yeah, I think so. I think Dimitri is a good guy. He does what he can, and we have the same interests. If I don't fight and get paid, he won't get paid. So we have the same interest. He wants to keep me active. He wants me in big fights because then we both make money. And I think it's just been hard for him. I think a good thing with Dimitri is that he works with a lot of promoters. So he was just over in England with Sky Sports and Boxer. They were going to have the Clarissa Shields fight. So he has good contacts there. He has good contacts with Eddie Hearn in the zone. So good contacts over here. So I think that's good with Dimitri, that he works with a lot of other promoters.
Yeah, it's and optimistically, he's going to get you some good fights. You said you're hoping for something big before the end of the year, we don't want to hold you on here too long. But anything else you want to say to the fans before we close it out here? We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. No, I just want to thank everybody for supporting me. I stay in the gym. I'm training. I'm pretty much always ready to fight. So I'm just hoping, get another big fight and work my way up there and get another title shot. That's really, my dream and that's what I want. So I want to thank everybody for following me on this journey and having patience with me. And thank you guys for having me on the show.
Hey, Otto, thank you very much for joining us. And fingers crossed you get something big coming up because you've definitely earned it, sir. We believe that 100%.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me.
You got it.
Cheers, Otto. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was Otto Wallin. Man, that was a real treat right there, Steve. That was a real treat. And like you had to keep going back to a guy that has earned a shot in the heavyweight landscape and has just been kept at arm's length, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things briefly. First of all, hit the like if you like us having Otto on the call. Secondly, absolutely, it wasn't just kissing his arse. That business with Dillian White was an absolute disgrace. They had no intention of going through with that fight. It became obvious and just let Otto go at the last minute. He's a difficult sell. He's fought on the PBC, fought Fury. He's in the Who Needs Him club. As Des says in the chat there, boxing's never been more territorial. Guys like Otto, with Dimitri Salita as the promoter, are going to have a tough time getting a shot. Also, fair play to you, Matty, for doing a fantastic job with the interview. I know you were doing your prep this afternoon. And also, finally, fair play to Joe Kennedy, head of the Prediction League, who set that up. He lives and works in New York, and he spotted Otto at the tube station a few times and went up to him, opened up a conversation, and then asked him if he'd come on the Nuthouse. So fair play to Joe. It was all he's doing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that took me back. I used to really love doing those interviews, Steve. I had a great time.
Brilliant.
And pardon me if I'm not up on all of the British stuff from Friday and Saturday. I was like going back and doing my Otto Wallin research there instead of going back over all the adventures in the UK. Back to this edition of Matty making an ass of himself with a scorecard. Okay, and like I said, let's go with what the judges did first. Some of the things. All right, the two judges who scored at 115, 113 gave it the first to Golovkin. And like I said, I don't think the first and second mattered much of anything. You can't be attached to a score on that one because nobody really worked to earn it. It was just flat. But then 2 through 5, the judges all scored unanimously for Canelo. One judge, the one who scored at 116, 112, gave the 6th round to Golovkin. The other two judges gave that one to Canelo. Everybody gave the 7th to Canelo. All 3 judges gave the 8th to Golovkin. One judge gave the 9th to Golovkin, as did I. 2 of the judges gave the 10th to Golovkin. 2 of the judges gave the 11th to Golovkin. And all 3 of the judges gave the final round to Golovkin. The only thing different in there, like I said, pick one of the first 2 rounds. I gave the 2nd to Golovkin. 2 of the judges gave him the 1st. And I agreed also with the judge on the 6th round. And like I said, this was with a lean of saying there's got to be some balance in the universe. But that ended up putting me at a 114, 114. That said, I thought that 3 of the rounds that I had that Golovkin won were swingy. So you could get to 117, 111 for Canelo off of that one. You really couldn't go much further than that, than I think my draw card. So when those were announced, I wasn't shocked by the outcome, Steve. And I think something you have to also think about, and sometimes TV and in person is different a little bit. And what you have to consider from the crowd, and just tune out on what the DAZN fools were saying on that one, is the tenor of the audience after that. They weren't rah, rah, rah like when Canelo is usually a clear winner. It was pretty flat. And not like a flat, like they were entirely bored, because the last few rounds were pretty good. I think that they pumped people up a little bit. I tend to think those 115, 113s were pretty fair. And because the crowd sure as hell wasn't sure that Canelo had won that fight on the cards.
Yeah, I think the crowd was a bit muted at times. At the end of the day, boxing's subjective sport. You saw it one way, the judges saw it the other. I'm not really sure about the fact that Golovkin won the first one. The second one was a lot closer. Making it a bit closer here kind of evens that out. I think you should just score the fights on a fight by fight basis. And Golovkin definitely won that first one. Second one was more interesting, and then Canelo won the third one. So ideally, it should be a win apiece and a draw probably, or maybe even 2 to Golovkin. But I reiterate what I said earlier. I just felt the way he was pouring with that overhand right. It just felt like Golovkin was fighting to not get hurt to me, not get stopped. He wanted to go the 12. He was coming forward, but he was just boxing like someone who wanted to go the distance. It was like a reserved kind of faux aggression. There was no chance that he'd landed anywhere near enough, in my mind, to the head or especially to the body to have weakened Canelo in the final rounds. And more importantly, Canelo doesn't get off scot-free either. He should have put his foot on the gas and finished off Golovkin. I'm not impressed with him. It was like when he fought Callum Smith. He let Callum Smith see out the distance as well. There's no excuses for letting that fight go the distance, or that one last night. And I'm going to shit on Canelo quickly before I close up here as well. It was the same whenever he quietly quit against Dimitri Bivol at the end, something that he's kind of got away with. He let the round slip away against Bivol, and he relied on the judges giving him a gift. He didn't do a Chavez, he didn't do a Marquez, he didn't do a Sanchez, and put his balls on the chopping block and sell out to KO Bivol and show the champion that he was. He quietly quit and he let the rounds drift away. So he has a habit of doing that, Canelo. He done it that time, and he done it again last night as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you real quick, Ricky Gravel throwing in 449 there. Rick, you will be in the this month's drawing as a super chatter, sir. So we do appreciate that very, very much. He loves us so much he doesn't even put a comment. He just throws us money. We love him dearly. Yes. And then, well, here's the thing about it. So you also have to like put some judgment. Oh yes, and this month's gift or is a press pass from a Mick Conlon fight, correct, Steve?
And a program as well from another one, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. By no means clearing out the cupboard. This is all well curated stuff, Matty, handpicked.
It's a Mick Conlon fan pack. What the fuck? It's wonderful. I think it's fantastic. And I bet you that Mr. Graville would love to have it.
I'm sure he would. He's on his own. Him and Ryan Deal are the only two super chatters so far this month. And of course, everyone who's in the Patreon will also be entered at the end of the month.
Well, and Steve, we all take, we love our fans dearly, but something that we don't always love are Compubox stats. But take them with a grain of salt. Correct, sir? Yeah. So in the fight, as per Compubox, it's got Golovkin throwing a total of 521. And Canelo throwing 487, 350 of those jabs thrown by Golovkin, 171 power punches with 270 jabs and 217 power punches from Canelo. Now, Steve, it's interesting because I'm going through here and just this is just throwing out there. Okay, we're not going anything crazy, but Golovkin outthrew Canelo, I didn't say outlanded, outthrew Canelo in the first, in the second, in the fifth, in the sixth, in the ninth they were even. He threw more in the 11th. He threw more in the 12th. So there was an activity bias in a lot of those rounds where Canelo threw more. I mean, they were really close. Like literally, one of them was separated by one. Golovkin obviously landing more jabs, 74 landed, only 46 power punches with Canelo 85 to 46. Now there's a couple ways to look at that. Activity, judges giving Golovkin's well-known jab credit, judges underscoring body punches as they often do. There's a lot of ways you get to a close fight. I'm not going to argue for this one as vehemently as I once did. That Timothy Bradley could have very well beat Manny Pacquiao in their first fight. But I will say, I like a close UD by Canelo. That didn't shock me when we got to there. It just didn't for the way I viewed the fight.
I don't know if you picked up on this, Matty, and maybe I missed it, but throughout those Compubox stats, what about the body shots from each respective fighter, especially Golovkin? Do you have those to hand?
It says that Golovkin landed 2 jabs out of to the body, and he landed 8 power punches to the body, as opposed to Canelo's 1 landed body jab and 36 landed power punches to the body. So basically, Canelo came through with about 6 around.
Yeah, Golovkin didn't stay in range long enough to get tagged to the body because a lot of us identified that as a possible route to the stoppage.
3 around.
Yeah,
but he was backing off.
Exactly. He was always on his heels, like I said earlier, ready to spring back. The thing was, Golovkin didn't tag the body at all. If you're going to slow down Canelo, you've got to throw underneath, I think, like Bivol did. Bivol was like downward diagonal kind of shots, wasn't he? Like do, constantly throwing to the shoulders, to the chest as best as he could. Well,
and I think that's height and reach element a little bit, don't you, Steve? Where it's just the way you're built almost, and Canelo
but he was active though, mate. He was active. Bivol was active and throwing punches. Golovkin was lucky somebody was only throwing like 1 and 2 punches.
He couldn't do it, Andy. He hadn't got it in the tank, and he was too slow. Golovkin has neglected the body across the whole 36 rounds because he didn't throw to the body well in the first 2 fights either. And that is the way. If you're going to slow Canelo down and get to him late on, you have to attack the body, in my eyes, to weary him. And Golovkin was too slow to do that because he knew he couldn't get into the body and get out again without being caught with counter shots, which meant he was basically a 1-2. Well, I say a 1-2 merchant. He was a jab merchant.
Round 10 was probably like the Golovkin of old. to what we can remember in terms of being aggressive on the front foot, looking to try and get the knockout, but you can't get the knockout against Canelo. I mean, we mentioned it last week. We mentioned that we just couldn't see dents getting put in. None of these guys have been dropped, really. Last time I've seen Canelo properly hurt, now I know we can mention the mental quit jobs against Floyd and Bivol. The last time I seen him hurt was against Miguel Cotto's brother back when he was like, what was he, 19, 20 at the time?
Yeah, and I mean, say inexperienced, say Jesus Christ, that kid should have never been a welterweight with his build. One or the other.
Right, we all saw what Murata was doing to him. Touched him up, hitting him to the body. You can see Golovkin blown in heavy. It seemed to be a bad weight cut as well. He seemed to be kind of putting on the weight, or the rehydration weight seemed to be kind of bloated. I'm sorry, but you mentioned there just before Otto Wallin came on the call, you were looking to give, or looking at rounds, or looking at the previous fights, thinking, right, okay, look, Canelo is getting every shake of every close round here.
Yes.
So you went in there with the idea in your head that you're going to look at this fight and you're going to purposely look to give Golovkin rounds.
That there has to be some balance in the universe.
You cannot do that.
But hold on. You say you can't do that, and I'm not like I said, I'm not standing by my scorecard emotionally whatsoever or anything like that. But I wanted to look at it in a way that if there is some way that things just balance themselves out in a minor fashion, that it will come. And I felt like there's no way that it could tip in all three fights, all close rounds for Canelo. And I was right. And like I said, I think the 116-112 is probably about the fairest scorecard that you could come up with. But I don't think like you said, you had Golovkin blanked through the first 8. Mm-hmm. I think there was enough rounds there were based on activity X, Y, and Z that you can't honestly say that Golovkin shouldn't have had one of those rounds coming through.
I'll say this much. I'll say that because I know all the judges at least gave Golovkin, I know at least one round between like 1 and 8, but I think maybe even a couple of other rounds possibly went to Golovkin by some of the judges. But look, the fight was that boring, mate. Maybe I switched off it and I says, fuck it, I'll gain that round to Canelo. But I'm looking at it as effective aggression, right? Canelo, to me, right? He was aggressive. He was effective with it. He had Golovkin backing up off it, right? Defense, okay, he was getting caught maybe late on in the fight and everything, but ultimately he kind of danced out of distance. Ring generalship. Who was commanding the centre ring? It was Canelo. For the early half,
and I think that's how you got to separate it. Like, honestly, if you have to say, God, that was kind of close, and you have to separate it a little, the fact that Canelo was commanding center ring for the first 7-8 rounds, yeah, I think you'd have to go that way.
Yeah, but as I say, there's I just cannot see a draw. I just cannot see it. It wasn't close. It certainly wasn't competitive for large portions of that fight. As I said, it didn't really kick in until like round 9. And then it was until like, oh shit, I'm going to lose this fight if I didn't pick it up. And then it's like, all right, okay, I need to go to work here. I mean, if it's true that he's got paid $30 million for that there last night, then that is a hell of a pension fight, because as I say, he turned up and done nothing. Basically nothing, mate. And as me and Steve mentioned, he backed off. And I mentioned it as well, he seemed to be worried about the Canelo counters. The body shots, as you mentioned there, again, I'm not putting any stock into those stats, but if it's true that he'd been landing 6 body shots per round throughout that fight, right?
3. It was only 3. I'm sorry, right. my head got.
No worries. But there was at least, I forget what round it was, but there was one round where Canelo landed a left hook to his body, and you saw him react to it. He backed off immediately.
100%.
I seen it against Murata as well. He took a body shot and he backed off. Now, again, he upped it down the stretch a wee bit. But again, Murata's not a Canelo level fighter. All right, so, and again, I think Murata's seen better days. He had a lengthy amateur career. Canelo's also seen better days as well. I think he's on the slide. I think his time's coming. But that said, he was still had enough in the tank. I say, you do not coast like that toward the end of a fight if you think you're losing it. Now, if we had Steve, I think it was Steve that mentioned about the open scoring situation. Yeah, that might have kind of smoked his arse a wee bit. Actually, and decided to kind of kick him into gear a little bit, because that was just a wee bit too close. I would need to go back and watch it to see for any swing rounds in the middle half that they flank from 1 to 8, but don't hold it hoping me doing it, mate, because as I says, and Steve says as well, that was a boring spectacle. No many trilogy fights, especially the third fight, end up being tremendous battles. They're very, very few and far between. And this was another one of those, unfortunately. It was too, I want to say as well, Canelo has really, his career now has got the hourglass turned over. It's just dripping away now, ready to go. Golovkin, seen better days. He's still got the belts at 160. Understand the WBA are going to be putting pressure on him within the next couple of weeks to make the Lara fight. I think it's to happen in January. He'll probably end up stripping himself of that belt, possibly, and that. So it looks at 160, but then how's he going to be at the weight? Try to make that weight as well, so his time's up, unfortunately.
Can I just say something quickly as well, Matty? It was the context of the fight that frustrated me. Not only was Triple G, we all know about Canelo, everything's loaded, isn't it? You're not just fighting against an opponent. With all things being equal, Golovkin going in the centre ring, throwing the jab, keeping the fight quite close on the cards, might have been enough to make it close. But this is against Canelo, a guy who you're historically 4 rounds down against as it is, a guy who we all saw, most of us saw beaten in the first fight and still managed to get a draw. A guy, the Las Vegas home fighter, the cash cow, the DAZN guy who brings in all the money. So Golovkin was going to have to fight outside of his skin just to be competitive, in my opinion, because it was against Canelo. So
And
all
it
things
turns
being
out
equal,
you're wrong.
Well, it turns out I was wrong for some strange reason, but that was what was more frustrating by me. It's like he's going to have to give a superhuman performance to win this fight. And not only was he not doing that, in my eyes, he wasn't even fighting up to his best.
Well, Steve, I think it's interesting that we go back. I'm going back in my head, and that Canelo kind of, in just a couple things different. This could have gone the wrong way for him, and I go back to that Pacquiao Bradley fight the first time around, and you got to remember that Pacquiao is about the same age that Canelo is. They were about the same level of stardom. And Pacquiao at this time had those back-to-back defeats to Bradley, and then the knockout to Marquez, which obviously nobody could argue against. And you just wonder if Canelo isn't getting a bit big for his britches. And that Pacquiao fight, they just went at him. And if you remember, he kept everybody, the crowd, the fans, all the people that chipped in for him to make these tens of millions of dollars. He kept them waiting an extra 30 minutes so he could watch a basketball game. And then the judges turned on him in that fight. Okay? And maybe this is Canelo's warning that you're getting a little bit big for your britches there, kid. And if you want to keep this up, you better at least entertain, right? And maybe that was the thought behind it at this point in time. Donnie, hit the turn off camera at the bottom.
Was there no boo there last time towards the end of that fight? We mentioned it.
You take up bandwidth. Turn off the camera.
Matty, did you not hear the Nuthouse call on Friday night? Because we actually discussed that very point. We actually discussed that very point about maybe the promoters, he's getting too big for the sport and they're going to take him down a notch or two, which we widely derided, but it was similar to what you're saying there.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. It's we've given you all of this favoritism this whole way, and it's just somebody mentioned just how much he's taking time off to play golf. Well, I mentioned
it last week. He's spending 4 hours a day, I think, with professional coaches.
Yeah, well, and you got to think about this too, guys. That extra time that he's spending. You said he's spending 4 hours with professional coaches. Okay, well, that's just his time on the range getting coached. He's probably getting a couple of rounds of 18 in there, and he's probably hitting the range too. So he's probably spending 12, 15 hours a week golfing. Okay, or that's probably what he's doing. And this is a guy who had consistently done really well in the late rounds in just working his opponents down, imposing himself, wearing them out, and 8 and onwards, just take, at any point he could take them out. Well, if he's spending his time on the golf course, especially riding in a cart and not walking, instead of doing his road work, guess whose stamina is going to suffer down the stretch? These are the second fight that, I thought I also scored a draw, like a legitimate draw, offering no favoritism in that one. And this is so back-to-back fights against Golovkin where the older man has gotten at least 3 of the last 4 rounds against him.
Yeah. I think if he's on the golf course and it's to the detriment of his health and his fitness, then that is a problem. His conditioning. As for skills, I think he's probably learned all he's going to learn now. But if he's not keeping sharp, if he's not keeping the lungs busting, then that would be a problem. Neutral corner there, Matty says Triple G, even in the first fight, was slightly past his best. That's why Canelo was interested. And one thing the chat were mentioning, so I hope you'll permit me here just to mention a comment from Dominic Henry, because this just moves us straight in nicely to this conversation. I know Donny's going to have his say as well. But Dominic sent me this earlier, by the way, Matty. He said, call me a hater, but I can't have Canelo down as an all-time great. It's not just the inadequately explained cloud of Clen hanging over his career and reputation, but there were just too many signature wins that have been disputed and contested on the cards, while the quality of some opponents have been exaggerated. Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Plant, etc. A very good fighter, no doubt, but not truly great. His legacy could have been greatly enhanced by fighting and beating the likes of Charlo and Benavidez since he fought Plant, instead of going down the route he ultimately took this year. I know I'm preaching to the converted on this one. He's talking about me. As for Golovkin, hope he retires, but the noises aren't encouraging. Doesn't want to see him fight a Eubank, etc. But what about the chat on his resume, Matty? I thought that was an interesting point to raise.
And he also, as well, Matty mentioned that Canelo said after the fight that he's not interested in fighting Benavidez, so we can forget about that one.
He said he seems to be planning to fight Bivol again. But like I said, I think Ramirez is going to shock the world on that one. That's just my opinion.
I think it's a tough fight. I only agree with you on that.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to fight the same way against he did Canelo. I mean, Ramirez is 6-7 inches taller.
He's
than
a big
Canelo,
guy and he can punch. Yeah.
And he puts them together. He doesn't throw a lot of single shots. I think this fight could definitely surprise, one of the ones I'm looking forward to. But Donnie, let me bring you in on this one because you've always been a big Golovkin fan. And what I find is really incredible. You got these two guys, both of them tremendous punchers, who have went 36 rounds with each other and neither has tasted canvas. I think that's incredible. But we're looking at Golovkin with a few belts now, and we're basically into a bidding war for what I think is going to be the last fight of Golovkin's career where they're really going to pick at his remains. That's got to feel weird as a fan.
Wait, what do you think his last fight is going to be?
I don't know what it is. It's going to be a bidding war. Someone's going to pay big money to cash in on what's left of Golovkin. It's going to be for Charlo, something like that.
I don't think he looked. I mean, the thing is that I was angry last night, watching the first 6 rounds because I felt like he wasn't in it. But then he finally let the fucking right hand go because he was afraid of getting countered by that Canelo left hook. But I mean, you have to remember Canelo's still one of the pound for pound number 1 fighters in the world. I mean, he stepped up against Bivol, but I mean, that was a huge step up to 175. I mean, he has no business at 175, and I think that fight proved that. So, I mean, he's just, I mean, Golovkin's not gone is I guess what I'm saying. You know what I mean? If he still hung tough with a guy, who, but for his, misadventure up at 175. Would still be undefeated. I mean, almost undefeated except for Floyd. But I mean, I don't think Golovkin looked awful last night. Is that the consensus on here?
I think if Canelo, be it his hand, be it his engine, like we just discussed, I thought that Golovkin was there for the taking, and I had him sweeping the last 4 rounds. I
think everybody did. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least 3 of the last 4, it seems. Jonathan Banks, I mean, what he said between 8 and 9, it really got to him. I wish he would have said it earlier. I mean, straight up, and I caught it, and it was noticeable. He said, "Fuck him. This is the Triple G show," and I'm like, yes. You've got to have. It's not about strategy. It's not about plan. It was all about mentality at the end of the day. And whatever that switch that flipped, it didn't flip early enough. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're entirely right. But when
I think Derevinchenko fucked up Golovkin worse than any of these guys. And I still can't say that Derevyanchenko beat him. You know, it's 12 individually scored rounds, but I think Derevyanchenko fucked him up worse than any of these guys that Golovkin has fought recently.
Well, I mean, you could hang that on anybody. He is, you know, I mean, he's over 40 now. Every fight's going to take a little bit out of him, but I thought that he still gave a good account of himself. At least in the latter half of that fight, he fought like somebody who wanted to win, and you know, he kept it close on the card. So if that's the best pound for pound fighter in the world, then you know Triple G doesn't really have a lot to be ashamed of, in my opinion. And in terms of like, if somebody wants to pay a lot of money to get his, if you want to call it his corpse or his scalp or whatever, you know, they may find themselves in a bit more. They might get a little bit more than they bargained for.
Well, I'm not saying some schmuck is going to be able to beat him. He's going to be fed to somebody with some talent, who has upside, who is capable. Donnie, we can't hear you.
I think that's exactly the way it's going to go.
Donnie, get closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
So actually, I just have to, before I give my further thoughts, though, I have to tell a really funny story that has nothing necessarily to do with boxing. But
okay.
Last night I was at a fight party, right? So my neighbor was putting it on like a projection screen in his backyard, right? And it was fucking great. Like, it was like awesome. You know, there was a pool, there's a projection screen, you know, and we're watching the fight on the projection screen. So I'm having a good time. And like, you know, we were watching the undercard fights, and then somebody, you know, like puts on like a YouTube on the speakers, and like, you know, Notorious B.I.G. came on. I wish Rob was here. And so, you know, I mean, you know the song Juicy?
Of course.
Yeah. So I was singing along, and I said, you know, if you don't know, then now you know, nigga.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess
you said it
somebody
again,
there,
you idiot.
So somebody there's like, hey, God damn it, my wife is African American. Like, he wanted to fucking kill me. I mean, there was a lot of drunk people there, but you know, I mean, I'm so thankfully my friend stepped in before I got my ass completely kicked, because he was ready to go. And I, like, the thing is that I would have been ready to go too, but it's like, it's my neighbor, man. Like, how am I going to go home to my wife and say, hey, I just, you know,
we have to move. My neighbors think I'm a Klansman now.
I just race baited my neighbor.
So yeah, this guy fucking lost it, man. And like, you know, they had to, like, the funny thing is, I'm the one who said the N-word, and he's the one that got escorted out. But
God damn it! Isn't that just American history in a nutshell?
And he's like, dude, it was in a song, man. Calm the fuck down.
Aye. You need to go to the diversity classes, Donny boy.
What'd you say, Andy?
Need to go to those diversity classes.
Yeah. I'm going to have to take sensitivity training, yeah.
Donnie attended Brown, which is a very ironic name for that university.
So anyways, so yeah, I mean, I like the fight. I thought it was, you know, I mean, it wasn't like what we paid for, but, you know, I mean, it's that's the way we always thought it was going to go. And actually, I mean, considering it, if you look at it relative to expectations, I think most of us on the pod, I was listening for the last couple of weeks, most of you guys thought that he was going to get knocked out. And so to keep it close,
no, we didn't. We literally went and said it was all going to go to a decision, so much to the point that we picked where the cards would be. I was closest, by the way, but continue.
Somebody said he was getting knocked out. I don't know.
No one picked it.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah.
At least Don, you're the most controversial one at your family on a Triple G Golovkin weekend.
Again. No, it's just, I think what Donnie maybe remembered was after the Murata fight with Golovkin. I think that's what, because, you know, he just
he looked
great.
Like
it looked like his time was up,
guy,
and you were thinking, you thought maybe if it was that night that he fought Canelo, you were thinking there was probably a good chance he might go stop, because he was listless for obviously, he was listless
for those first night. Like 4 rounds or whatever.
Yeah, and he kind of kicked up a gear. the gear wasn't there last night.
Yeah. Yeah,
The other thing as well,
one
sorry, one thing I was going to mention, I noticed these two guys are actually in VADA testing, so maybe that kind of explains why Canelo's maybe coasting the last couple of rounds.
Maybe so. I mean, it did just shock me though. Like I thought this would be the last fight of Golovkin's career, or at least the second to last one, and I just thought that he would leave it all out there. And if he fought like he did the last 4 rounds, if he fought like that early, we might be talking. There might be a different story here happening, but hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and it was what it was.
Exactly, Steve. Exactly. May they put that on my tombstone. That actually is pretty fucking perfect. Just kind of indifferent to the whole fucking experience so far, it seems to me like with the injury, if I had to take a guess, Canelo's going to come back probably for Cinco de Mayo weekend next year. I bet we don't see him till May. And I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure who's going to bid the highest for Golovkin. There's a few people who would love those belts. It's going to be at 160. They're going to want the scalp. They're going to want the belts. I feel like it's Charlo.
What's the purse though, mate? I mean, if it's true that he's getting paid 30 million there last night, I think he's going to come down for chump change. I think he's going to come down for a couple 100,000.
So what you got to think is, what are the returns on someone building a name off of Golovkin? So maybe it's not someone as old as Charlo. Maybe it's somebody somewhere in their 20s, that we're not thinking of, that they think this is a big investment moving forward. And it's not coming to me right now.
Demetrius Andrade, I think they'll stick him in next Cinco de Mayo.
Too old.
Undefeated, world champion, fits all the bills, doesn't it?
Yeah, but don't you think that the amount of money that somebody is gonna see out of Andrade in the future isn't enough though? Like, is this just what he's been waiting for? Is this one big win, or is he just so boring and just not good on the eye that he is why he's never been there? I think that's a poor investment. Do they think that Munguia can walk him down? It seems like from what they're hinting at on the broadcast with Daniel Jacobs in the booth that it's going to be Munguia against Daniel Jacobs next. Could you see Golovkin fighting Munguia? Should he win that one?
Well, remember they almost fought before a long time ago.
Banned. Aye, they wouldn't sanction the fight. Remember?
That's right. Yeah,
that was when he was a ranked novice at 154. Still,
he's no improved much then, has he? Since then,
no, maybe even regressed. I don't know who that's going to be on there. It was kind of a weird night of stocks going down a little bit. Andy, I kind of thought Bam's stock went down a little bit against Gonzalez there, because I think the other Gonzalez, after I'm kind of looking at Bam's performance there, I think he could eat him up a little bit. Bam has a clear what kink in his armor kind of thing, and that's that he doesn't move to his left very well. He moves to his right very well in making those pivots, but he clearly has a weak side with his footwork.
Well, to be honest, I think Israel Gonzalez is actually better than advertised. To be fair, I know he's come up short against some of the better fighters like Yafai and Roman Gonzalez, and gets up against Ancajas, for example. I know he'd been dropped a few times, but I thought he boxed pretty well. To be fair, for what about to say, maybe definitely for the best half of that fight, the first half of it at least, I thought he was doing pretty well, using his reach pretty well, jabbing, right-handing. But I felt maybe Rodriguez was just kind of like looking for openings, kind of try to draw the fence and try to open him up a little bit, being patient, because I think he was having issues with that reach and just trying to kind of think his way through it. But once he got inside and started ripping his shots off, it was starting to tell, and it was starting to pay, because as the fight kind of wore on the kind of latter half, I didn't think Gonzalez was actually as good as what he was in the early half. I thought he looked tired. His punches didn't have the same snap to it. And certainly when Rodriguez started let his hands go, and that, he certainly wasn't reacting the same way as to what he did Like for example, coming back at Rodriguez Gonzalez when he landed his own shots. So he was certainly made to work for it anyway. Rodriguez. I'm getting the two names mixed up now. But anyway, Bam. I'll just call him Bam to keep it simple. He certainly made to work for it. He bit down on his shield a little bit. He didn't get it all his own way. But as Gonzalez, as I say, he would respond whenever Rodriguez landed that as well. But maybe Rodriguez was just kind of slightly frustrated because obviously he had a couple of low blow warnings. He had a point taken off. I don't think there's any debate or dispute really about those low blows. If you look
He's
at
lucky he didn't get a second point because that
possibly.
last one was definitely low.
Definitely. And the one they got the point off for was definitely a low blow as well. So you can't have any complaints here. But as I say, maybe the frustration got to him as a result of the kind of low blow point deduction. As I say, it was fair. As I say, this is a fight kind of wore on. I thought, my personal opinion, I thought Bam was looking a wee bit kind of stronger fighter, and Gonzalez was just showing the signs of being worn down. I think off a kind of a better technically sound fighter, but he wasn't disgraced. Gonzalez, to be fair, so he'll probably get another chance of some sorts. It's like he just seems to be the bridesmaid in these kind of like world title fights. He just can't get it over the line. But as I say, he wasn't disgraced. He done as well as he could. Maybe that was him fighting at his absolute maximum there, and he wasn't disgraced doing it. But I just thought, the better work, especially when they managed to figure it out and get on the inside. I thought Rodriguez, his work on the inside was absolutely fantastic. So I take the point. Maybe he wasn't as he's absolutely exceptional best. I thought he's been shown in his last 3-4 fights and that, but kind of always looked great. It's always about getting the win first and maybe looking good, later. But to say, he's kind of get it all his own way. Say that guy that he's fighting is long, rangy dude, and remember, Rodriguez isn't really a bona fide at this point. I don't think anyway, a bona fide legit super flyweight. He's still got a wee bit of growing to do. He's only 21, 22-year-old. Ideally, he should maybe still be at light fly, possibly even flyweight. But he's fighting these bigger guys. He's getting opportunities. I do take your point. Some people were mentioning there last night that maybe Roman Gonzalez would have beat his ass there last night, considering how he was kind of trying to come in the inside, maybe get caught with those uppercuts, etc. But I think whoever wins that third fight between Gonzalez and Estrada, I want to see it next. I think if he does come through it, he kind of sets himself up really as the guy he beat at the lower weight classes, and really it's all just really about him staying competitive, really, and just not letting the hunger slide, really. To be honest,
Yeah, he's supposed to be on the undercard of the Rodriguez Gonzalez trilogy fight, December 3rd, but apparently Bam wasn't too up for this fight. Like, you want to take a break. So I wonder if getting him back out, less than 3 months away on that undercard is a good thing. I wonder if they're not building him up a little too fast without giving him a break here. And it's just they almost broke Leo Santa Cruz. You remember when they had him fight like 5 times in 7 months?
Which is a wee bit say like Jaime Munguia, the runs out his title reign at 54, but I think I take the point as well, and it can run a risk. But you remember, Matt, the timing's now. You got to take these opportunities now, because Gonzalez and Estrada, you're lucky if they're going to be remaining around another year or two. So you want to try and get these. You want to try and get these fights made now. And if he loses, so what? He's lost to fucking first ballot Hall of Famers, So, and you've got an all-time great in Roman Gonzalez as well. So there's no disgrace in losing to the guys, unless it's the man in the defeat, obviously, in that as well. It would probably count. But if he does get those fights made, they've got to happen. I wouldn't really worry about kind of runs them out at this point, because these opportunities are not going to last.
I think if Chocolatito loses to Estrada, he retires. That's personally what I think.
Yeah, I think so. I possibly believe that as well.
Yeah, especially if it's like, it's one of those things, like, if it's a close fight and he feels done in, he might still go on. But if he loses it clearly in any way, shape, or form, but those guys, you kind of feel like they can't have a fight that isn't close, don't you, Andy? Like, it's like Pacquiao and Marquez. It's the meshes there, and whenever they meet up, it's just gonna be good.
Well, I was looking through my phone the other day there, actually, at the scorecards, and I'm sure I had that third fight. I'm sure I had Gonzalez winning it, to be fair. I need to go back and double check it.
I think you had it 115, 113,
yeah,
116, 112, maybe even.
close competitive fight. I mean, people spoke about the first fight for years, and we were crying about not getting the rematch for what was it, the best part of 5 years. You know, and if you're right in what you're saying, if this third fight is even close and it's competitive, you would see Eddie being desperate as what he is, trying to get content for DAZN, wanting to make a fourth fight. You know, so hopefully we get a clear conclusive winner. That says we can get the winner to fight Bam Rodriguez next day. To be fair, because we just need that. We just need this kind of like line in the sand, really, now time moment. I just want to see. I want to see him. I want to see if he can step up and beat the Fairy legends, because I still think these guys, Estrada and Gonzalez, have still got, they've still got that wee bit of class about them, and they've got the experience. They know what it's like in the championship rounds. Can they do something different with Rodriguez? Kind of back him up, because we've not really seen Rodriguez backed up really as such, have we? We've not really seen him kind of fighting off the ropes, having to kind of like fight himself back.
He got backed up a little bit last night. Not a lot,
major,
but he got backed up.
Nothing major. I'm talking about a consistent press, consistently having the, just getting that mental pressure. For example, put on, just getting that pressure to get walked down, get put to the ropes, just having to kind of think your way through a fight. At the minute, he's looking fantastic just now, to be fair. And I thought he made adjustments here last night and got himself into the fight. And his punches counted, because as I says, I thought Gonzalez tired a fair bit down the stretch of that fight, and that's where I think Rodriguez actually then began to take over.
Yeah, that's God. Then I was just going to go to Rob, and Rob leaves. Jesus Christ.
I'll be back on shortly.
I swear to God. And that was one where the announce crew at DAZN again, where they thought I went back and watched it because I missed a few rounds. I had to bounce for a few minutes, so I'm like, what? That was a really close fight. One of the judges had it, I think 114, 113 or 115, 112, really close. A couple of them wide. I think that 118-ish card was gross, but I don't think it was as close as the announce team wanted to make that one out to be. I thought that was a kind of a 116, 112-ish kind of fight with a knockdown. I don't know, with the point deduction. So anyhow, again, that was the first underwhelming performance from Bam since he's kind of come on the radar, though. Still a reasonably entertaining fight, probably the most entertaining fight of the card, honestly. Donnie, you showed incredible restraint. I say you keep wanting to jump in, out. Go ahead. Or not. Moving on. We also on.
I think the neighbours just came in and kicked Donnie's fucking back door in, I think.
Jesus Christ, Rob.
There's Rob there.
Are you back?
Oh yeah.
All right. Before I get any further down the undercard, why don't you give me your Canelo Golovkin thoughts?
Same as how I thought it would fucking play out, to be honest with you. Like, I listened to the Boxing Others call-in the other night. Get a life, by the way, everyone who called into that. It was fucking hilarious, by the way. Actually, I'm going to segue off into this, because I don't know if any of the rest of the panelists heard it, like Steve did, because he was on it, obviously. But it was like, in the Fresh Prince, where Aunt Viv was dark-skinned, and then like they came back for a second season, and they came back with a new Aunt Viv, and everybody just fucking pretended that. Because like they had Zekenomics there, who was like the fucking Scottish guy. They had Joe Kennedy, who was the Irish guy. They had some fucking American guy who took fucking forever to make his point, who was like you. And then the saddest part about it all was Steve was there laughing. One of my favorite parts of the show is if I do a joke, nobody gets it, and then I just hear Steve laughing. But he was there laughing away with all the boys. Fucking hell, I thought to myself, we're easily replaceable anyway. Fucking Joe Kennedy and Zekenomics are taking our fucking...
I thought you were going to mention when Zekenomics Pizza came.
Rob sounded like a fucking like he's been cheated on here.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good, Andy. And I tell you what, I felt that the other night. I felt it, and Steve was getting into conversations with the boys and all. He's like, "Oh, speaking into existence." Like my missus, she speaks in it. Well, I tell you what, Steve. Right? If that's working for Mrs. Wellings, she should aim higher.
He's black affronted, Steve.
We just need Joe Kennedy calling him from the street next time, Rob.
Joe Kennedy is the Rob. He's the nicer version of Rob Kelly. Economics, the nicer version of Andy. And it was good. No, it was good. It was good stuff. It was really good. But The reason I'm
We need to get them
referencing
with a
the
drink on
show,
the podcast. That's where the acid test lies. We need to get Joe and economics on the drink. That's what we need to do.
can they do it every Sunday night for 500 episodes? I doubt it. But anyway, I haven't even got a real prediction league. Anyway, I'm going too far with the other boys. The boys are great lads. I'm only joking, obviously. But it was a good listen, and it really got me excited for the fight. But
so hold on, you're saying something about an American who took forever to get to his point, Rob. But please continue.
But what I meant was it was kind of giving us the false. We all kind of had a false sense of hope that the fight was going to be something else, because realistically, we all knew what was going to happen. The Derevchenko fight was the night. To me, I said before a million times on the pod, I thought he got old against Danny Jacobs, and it kind of, he had a little bit of an Indian summer, and there was a run there, and he really should have had his moment in the first Canelo fight, covering all that old ground. But the Derevchenko fight was the night where I saw anyway, and I was saying after it, I don't want to see this fucking Canelo 3 fight, because I thought he might genuinely get stopped. No, he was in no danger of getting stopped. I thought the two of them looked like dog shit, but it was probably the worst fucking delayed rematch since fucking B-Hop and Roy Jones, and that was a stinker. And it wasn't quite a stinker on that part, but it was one of the worst fucking third fights in a trilogy since fucking Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. I just thought it's gone for Golovkin. He's 40, he's fucking blown up, he's fat, he looks slow, sluggish, can still punch obviously, but he was never going to put a dent in Canelo, who's on those drugos. No, I'm not joking. I don't know what the crack is with Canelo, but I didn't think he looked particularly great last night either. I just didn't know what the point of this fight being made was ever at all. Obviously, Golovkin was promised this fight when he came to the zone. He signed his new deal, but I'd say he thought he was going to get it a lot earlier than fucking 4 years down the line. Now, obviously, the pandemic plays a part in that, but it was all just a payday really for Golovkin, and I'm glad he got his couple of big paydays towards the end of his career, because I think he was great value, good middleweight. But the fight wasn't going to go any different for me. I just thought Canelo would have too much for him. But a shitty fight, and the scorecards are strange. I know there was anomalies about the score, and everybody saying like 115, 113, 116, 112. Like, don't try and give Golovkin a gift now. You know that way? Don't be trying to just get the score right, whoever's the winner. So it should have been like fucking 118, 110 or something, or even higher.
You gotta give Golovkin 3 of the last 4. I think you're being beyond cruel if you didn't think he took the last fucking quarter of that third of that fight.
Well, whatever. Then what is it? 116. There were too close, right? The fucking scorecards are too close. What do you want from me? No, they were too close. I thought people were giving the judges were giving Golovkin a couple of compensation rounds there, like where he didn't deserve it. He left it.
There has to be some balance, Rob. I mean, Canelo got the benefit in 2 fights, all the rounds. There had to be some balance with close.
Yeah, but it's
rounds.
no good to Golovkin now. You just give him the fucking ones that he deserved to win the first fight. We wouldn't even have a conversation. You know what I mean?
I agree there. I agree.
So yeah, that's a disappointing but expected outcome, I think.
It's it's definitely not going to be a fight that's talked about much in years to come. Unlike their other 2 fights, which were definitely classics of the modern middleweight division. So, yeah. Further down on the undercard, God, I don't know how much of all this you guys caught. Ali Akhmedov taking a UD over Gabe Rosado, who should just retire. Just lethargic, doesn't put him together too well anymore. He's pretty easy to figure out. I don't know if anyone has any opinion on that fight, and if you do, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I will quickly. I thought Akhmedov looked really good, actually. Nice. Picked his shots well. Good distance, range. Rosado's seen better days, but I thought he did well. And Williams quickly against Conway was the most competitive fight of the card. I thought it was a grossly uncompetitive undercard. I know Gonzalez pushed Bam pretty close for the early rounds anyway, but it just didn't have fizz for me at all. I thought it was quite lackluster overall from top to bottom. I killed everybody.
Matty.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. Yeah. Not a single knockout on the entire card. Austin Ammo Williams taking a UD over Kieran Conway, dropping him in the 9th. Didn't really think that Conway was any trouble of being stopped at any point. in that fight there. He did get a little bloodied up.
His corner man was funny, wasn't he? After the knockdown, he's like, "You're a fucking disgrace, referee." He missed him by a mile, and then they showed the replay and the uppercut like bouncing off Conway's nose.
Yeah, he Conway. I'll tell you what though, Steve. I like what he brings to the ring. I think he has a ceiling, but I think he's going to be in one of those level of gatekeepers where he's going to definitely help weed out some of the talent that's coming out. There's definitely a place in the ring for the Kieran Conways of the world.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. He's a big guy. He's tall. He's rangy. He never quits. But as M. Lithgow says, he's a feather duster, man. He can only go so far. He can't punch. But he's done well for himself, considering he looked like a domestic level operator. I think he fought in the prize fighter and all that. And Eddie's giving him opportunities on the undercard. And he's took them to a degree. He hasn't won the fights, but against Sissoko and Williams, I think he showed that he's a good fighter and he deserves his spot.
Yeah, absolutely. The question, and I mean, again, for any of you guys, I don't know between the four of you what anyone caught. Is anyone after that fight really thinking Austin Williams is a true title challenger? I think that's the question there. And I personally come away saying no. Any of you guys, what do you guys might think?
Well, title challenger these days it's a loose term, isn't it? Because you can be 15-0 now and you're literally marching towards a mandatory somewhere. Like, so
a good title challenger, I said, though. Give him a chance.
Depends. It depends who the dance partner is. You know that
was a vacant WBA bobble on the line there last night. So there's some ranking points he's going to pick up. What was that? A middleweight fight? I've never seen it to be. I've got a copy. I just haven't had a chance to watch it. Is it a middleweight fight?
Because if it is, he's like super lightweight or welterweight. I don't know what weight.
I just noticed he's ranked number 6 at 160 with WBA. So if he's with Eddie, he's going to be quids in. And then if you look up that list, you've got Carlos Adams, Jaime Munguia, Sergio Martinez, Ryoto Murata, and Michael Zarafa. Fucking nothing there to get excited about.
Yeah.
Williams can punch. Williams can punch. He's a puncher.
He can.
And he also looked like he was about to fade through the middle of the fight. There's obviously some kind of issues. He looked like he was away with the fairies at the weigh-in, but he got himself together. He made adjustments and he came back and showed character, I thought. So he definitely ticked a box in that respect. Whether he'll be a world champion, as Rob says, people used to say, "Oh, Paul Smith will never be a world champion." Flip me, with the right manoeuvring these days, anyone can become a world champion.
Yeah, and I mean, under the right circumstances, it seems. But, at a place like, at some of these weight classes where there's more stacked talent, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Or at the very least, if they get there, the fact that they don't belong is so more clearly transparent to the boxing community at large. But
here's one, Maddie, for you. Sorry to call across
please.
I was just interested to get the lads' thoughts on this. Well, where does Golovkin and Canelo, I guess, rank in the shakeup of great middle and super middleweights? If they were to say Golovkin was to call it a day now, now I'm not asking for fucking actual positions. Like, he's number 7 behind fucking, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, how do you think they stack up to the recent great middleweights and super middleweights?
Struggling for me. In fact, there was a question here, Andy. Dr. FMG was talking about, would today's Canelo beat the version of B-Hop that fought Oscar? The panel has good knowledge of that era, you old bastards. I think that's an important question for this. I don't think so either, no, John.
I don't think so. If you take the Hopkins that fought either De La Hoya or Trinidad, I'm sorry, that's just a totally different beast.
Or the one that fought at Kelly Pavlik at 170 pounds.
Kelly Pavlik,
for all intents and purposes.
Great performance. Take the Jean Pascal performance. He was competitive with Joe Calzaghe, gave him fits. And Calzaghe had great stamina, brought it all night, tried to chase him all night as well. But in terms of like Rob's question, what you're saying, Rob, you're asking like top 20, top 30.
Well, it was Oscar's. Oscar had a tweet, and I'm sure it'll come up in Value of the Week, or maybe it won't, but it was fucking.
Sure it will.
Where he said, but he said basically fucking Canelo couldn't carry B-Hop's jockstrap, and I think that's probably where Dr. FMG is getting that question out of as well. But I was just making comparisons to the two of them. I was looking at the Tony Zirov fight, and that was James Toney's 70th fight. I think that was his 70th fight the night he beat Zirov, and I know that was up a cruiser or whatever, but I just don't see. I don't see either of them two beating Hopkins, Tony, or Jones.
What I think is interesting on this one is, guys, is I think, and you have to look at it like we were there to see it. Years down the road, people will just see the record and the results, and they'll judge it off of what it was. But I think what you're really doing, kind of, if you're looking at like the last 15 years of the middleweight division, is I think what you're ultimately doing is you're trying to place Golovkin, Canelo, and Sergio Martinez in a 1-2-3.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I'm not going to
I'd agree
throw.
with that.
I'm not going to throw like the old school names. For example, I'm not going to throw like Harry Greb and all that stuff, and Bob Fitzsimmons, for example, who fought middleweight. So we'll kind of like stick to kind of like. What about Mike McCallum? Would Mike McCallum beat?
I was just going to mention him, Andy. Given the fact
Yeah.
that both of them don't like it to the body, I think McCallum would be hell for the two of
Yep.
them. But they're both
That left-
competitive. I'm
Yep.
not saying they're a walkover. I'm not saying they beat any of these guys. But this business, so-and-so smashes Golovkin prime, so-and-so smashes Canelo prime. I don't subscribe to that either. They're both very competitive, very good fighters with these people.
Do you know
Carlos Monzon,
Oh, Jesus Christ! No, let's
Strong,
not even go
fit.
there.
Rodrigo Valdez, who fought Monzon twice, I think. Hard fight.
Well, see,
I
the way I look at it, man, is Golovkin is probably the best of those three, right? I mean, it's because does anybody disagree that he won the first fight, and we can call that Golovkin's prime, really? You know what I mean?
Well, you could say that. Look, you could say that last night Canelo picked up his first win of the series, right? I think we're all raging with the first fight. I think the second fight was definitely one of the fight of the year. Actually, I think I can't mind. I'm sure I had Golovkin winning that fight. To be fair, so yeah, you could say look, that was Canelo's first clear, legit victory over Golovkin. No a draw, Matty. It wasn't a draw like you had it. Do you hear that, Rob? You hear that draw?
Yeah, what last night a draw?
Yeah, I hear that a draw.
Like I said, I went in it with a clear lean to Golovkin. Like
You went into it
had
on
to
the
have-
fucking. You went
and
into
I
it on the
wasn't
lean.
shocked. I wasn't shocked. Everyone, you guys were. I wasn't. I was prepared.
You had to draw off that big bong, I think, before you came up with that fucking
Aye.
scorecard.
I was
Never mind
oddly
lean. You
sober
were
for
fucking.
that
You
one.
were drinking Windoline by the sounds of it, man. You were fucking
Drinking that,
putting in those scorecards.
drinking
No,
that
it-
lean that they have in America with the what is it, the codeine shook up in the Sprite. I think you're on that.
Like I
Boiler
told you,
House gin.
like I said, you guys, I think in all fairness, the 116-12-ish with maybe, is the way that fight should have been. I think you get a little too wide beyond that. Like there were enough rounds that were activity based that you got to give Golovkin one of the first 8 and then give him 3 of the last 4. 116, 112. Done. I think that's perfectly fair. Anyways, everybody picking on Matt. And I forget. Oh, our discussion. So I forget our discussion. So I think we're talking like, all right. So basically, with Golovkin, I think Golovkin is the best of them. And Golovkin at middleweight, unless you guys want to argue, I think him prime middleweight is the one that you're discussing where he fits in with some of the greats. The guy in the first fight with Canelo, the one that was on a knockout streak that didn't look like it would ever end, who was destroying, British people in every one of their former
just after
colonies.
Macklin, the Golovkin just after Macklin, that kind of area.
Yeah, like I remember, wasn't it? He traded left hooks, was it, with Gil, and just like he didn't budge, and Gil just like folded like a lawn chair. It's like that era. That guy was a badass, and I think that Golovkin could be competitive with Hopkins. I think that Golovkin would be an interesting fight with James Toney, just the way that he keeps his jab moving.
He's competitive with all of them, Matt. I think he's competitive for sure.
I'll tell you what I think is oddly enough the fight of the bunch that would be entertaining could be though. I think I'd have to take James Toney, but Canelo against James Toney is a great.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Canelo versus James Toney at 60 or 68. At 68 is actually would have been fucking unbelievable. But James Toney would have beat the shit out of Canelo.
Canelo was not going to. Canelo was having a hard time trying to fucking land anything clean on Tony like he did against Floyd. You could maybe see another mental breakdown in that fight like he did against fucking Floyd.
As what did Jonathan Butler describe Tony as years ago? I said that Jones described Tony as Floyd but with the dog in him.
Yeah, and yeah,
Canelo
unfortunately, he
against
ate
Michael
that dog.
Nunn. That'd be a good one, I think. Canelo against Michael Nunn.
Again, mate, that's a fight that Canelo's chasing, because Michael Nunn could, was a southpaw as well, wasn't he? And he was quick on his feet. I know
Fast as hell.
he could get hurt. He could get dropped and hurt, but skill wise, man, that is about as good as it got. And
Nunn was
James
class.
Toney,
One of my favourites, man. He was brilliant.
See the movers in the
smashed
80s,
him in
right?
11th round.
See the movers. That was like 25 years ago or something the other day. I think that non-Tony one. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but see the movers back in the day, like before Floyd came to the fore, all the fighters imitated Floyd's shoulder roll, where they stand in front of you, kind of, and try and slip off to the and create angles. But when Nunn and all them were kind of emulating Ray Leonard, there was a lot of side-to-side movement, especially in the middleweight divisions from defensive fighters, like a lot of circling, a lot of side-to-side movement. And I think Canelo would have been chasing Michael Nunn, like Andy says, for a lot of the fight. Like Michael Nunn is underrated when it comes to historical terms. He's a very good fighter.
Very much like Tony was, Rob, until he caught up with him.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, you have no idea how people rate Tony so highly these days, right? Or even did when he was still active, right? How good would he have been if he was legit bought into like keeping the fucking weight down, keeping it proper? I mean, there was like that. Remember the Tiberi fight? He should have lost that one, right? There's been instances of dumping too much weight, fighting up at heavyweight, just need discipline. But the dude could fucking fight, man.
See the thing about him though. See the thing about Tony is that he dumped so much weight in his prime to get to 160. He was a linebacker or something, playing football in America. So he was coming down from 200 pounds to get to 160 in the first place. So I think it just took its toll on him and the amount of fights that he had over the years. But like a fucking joy to watch in his prime, like, and a fucking entertaining bastard as well. Like always with a soundbite. You might not always understand it, but always got some trash talk to fucking say to somebody and back it up in the ring, like as well. A fucking legit badass, one of the greatest of all time. I don't know how we got to James Toney from Canelo.
I know.
Here we are. In terms of raw talent, he could be one of the most talented fighters in history. It just happened. It was during a time, like I said, he's got the weight problems, but he's also against
never stopped.
He's also against one of the most athletic fighters of all time, and Roy Jones Jr., who was his athleticism is unparalleled.
By the way, can we just say about that fight? Roy Jones had a hand problem in that fight, and James Toney was dead at the weight because he dumped too much weight before that fucking fight. That he was just basically like training to make weight and had nothing left come the fight. That was one of the biggest letdowns.
He was on the roids big time at the end of his career, wasn't he, Tony, as well?
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, that fight just did not deliver, in terms of like excitement or what it should have been, because that fight was well talked about. It was at 68 as well, wasn't it? So Jones was coming up from 60, I think. But then obviously he's got moments of brilliance, like the fight against Iran Bartley, man. That was a slaughterhouse fight. Then fucking Bartley was an abattoir, getting absolutely sliced to bits. So that was one of the most impressive performances outside of the general fight you'll see for James Toney, man. I got milk, baby.
He's just one of the most unbelievably hot and cold fighters ever.
Yeah,
too.
that's
like
how it is, huh?
Losing to like Dave Tiberi. Didn't Tiberi get in the Hall of Fame for some fucking reason too? Did I imagine that? I swear I saw something dumb like that, like Dave Tiberi.
I don't think so.
I think that was a Hall of Shame, Matty.
No, there was. If I find out, because I swear to God, I was reading something, I saw that, and I thought I had a stroke, and maybe I did, because that would make more sense. But anyways, it's Tony. I mean, just so hot and cold. I mean, I don't want to go off too far in like middleweight history.
What about Golovkin now? We've not really talked about Golovkin
against that's what I'm getting. Like, so basically, if you want to like compare him with like the greats in history, it's like you're saying how would he do against Hopkins, against Roy Jones Jr., against James Toney, against Hagler, against the Sugar Rays, against Monzon. Probably a couple more you could throw in there.
That Hagler fight sounds really interesting to me. Hagler against Golovkin, prime for prime.
That'd be good.
That'd be a great
tear
fight,
up,
mate.
Tear up.
Ali Burley's tried to annoy me now by saying Calzaghe would have beat James Toney. Knock it off now, Ali. Stop now. Right? Love you, but relax.
I'll tell you something too. Like you talk about one fight absolutely ruining a guy, and you look back and you're like, "Fuck me, this guy was mean. It just could hit like a mule kicks." Was God damn it, how did I just lose it? Oh, Mugabe. Yeah, I mean, after that fight with Hagler, I mean, he was just done. But my God, that guy was a beast, and he could punch. And there's these random guys like that throughout the history of middleweight who you don't know how anybody could have done well against him on any given night. I think Hagler just ruined that guy. He was
a beast. His name was John the Beast Mugabe.
Yeah.
No, just that though, Matty. You know, that Mugabe fucking laid the worst punishment that Hagler's ever took in his pro career. That guy admitted he was pissing blood after that fight, Hagler. And it was that night as well, I believe Leonard was sitting ringside saying to Michael J. Fox, I can beat that guy. And he says,
That's right,
Leonard, sorry, Ray, sit down and have another fucking beer. He's like, wait, really? But
Hagler had to bite down to win that fight.
He did,
sure.
Mate. It was a brutal fight.
Stuck his thumb in his eye as well, didn't he? Mugabe always maintained he got thumbed in the eye after, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought you said tongued in the eye for a second there, and I'm like, well, that's
well, it's bringing me to the question: who would have won between Hagler and Robert Mugabe?
Nobody would get one over Robert Mugabe.
Does he have his forces behind him? I guess that's the question at hand. It might be a one-sided affair.
You'd have to send the guard in for that one.
Yeah, he'd be definitely a frontline warrior if you're running your army correctly. So
that's the point, isn't it? Who would you rather fight, Prime Robert Mugabe or Prime John the Beast Mugabe? It's a tough one.
Oh God! And I'll tell you what, like when you get into that kind of stuff, though, with the great middleweights, like I have a hard time seeing really anybody beating assuredly. Like I can't like say so and so would definitely beat Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean that's still the guy for me at a couple, at a welterweight to end it at middleweight. I don't know where you guys are at, but I just don't see anyone.
I think the fact
I've kind of got it. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say quickly, the fact Matty mentioned about anyone could beat anyone on any given night is why it's all the more important to have the rematches, the trilogies. Look at if Wilder and Fury hadn't fought again after the first time, we'd forever be discussing things. Wilder would still be on top, blah blah blah. And that, I suppose, last night isn't the case in point because we're still none the wiser really over the last three fights. But you need more than one, don't you, for some of these great fighters?
I think about the Robinson thing. Sorry, Matty, to come in. I think about the Robinson thing. People forget like that he did lose to Cameron Basilio. He was 38 at the time. He lost to Randy Turpin. He lost, but I think Paul Pender was the only person to beat him twice, and he was gone 40 at that stage, and he'd had like 200 fights or something like that, or something crazy like that. But Robinson, I suppose, is the romantic choice for everybody, but. When
you're
you
talking
look at
prime too, Rob, like I think you got to kind of signal on that, like the real prime versus real prime.
Well, people, I always make this point on the pod when we do the fantasy fights is that people kind of say, oh, well, look at the old footage and all these fighters couldn't, but you got to give the old fighters the benefit of having today's training, I suppose, if you match them up in fantasy matchups. So we load Robinson up with clenbuterol. Nobody's fucking touching him.
Yeah, it would be insane. You imagine a guy like Sugar Ray Robinson if he had a nutritionist. What extra layer would that add to that game? That I don't know. Might totally fuck him up. Actually, it might get him eating some ostrich and forever ruin him.
Some of the greats, like Jake LaMotta. Can you imagine fucking him fighting the likes of Golovkin, mate? That's just like that's a car crash. I fight that. That's just like constant car wrecks for fucking 12, 15 rounds, whatever it's going to be.
I'm surprised Donnie left and he didn't get in the conversation more. What the hell?
He's getting his cunt kicked in off his neighbour, mate.
What's it called? Golovkin has fought cinnamon so many times he should have had diabetes.
Aye. Well, he should have turned ginger by now.
So yeah, that was I don't know. It's interesting to try to place these guys in history. It's always a guess, always a hunch. Hey, there's Donnie again. At the end of the day, styles make fights. Donnie, turn off your camera again. Precious bandwidth. Thank you. Before we move on, Donnie, do you want to get anything in on where these guys sit historically at middleweight before we move a different direction?
So, what did you say? The historical context of Canelo and Golovkin at middleweight?
Yeah. At their primes, where do you kind of think they sit?
Well, just Canelo was still a story still to be told.
But he's not at middleweight anymore.
Yeah, well, he probably really is, but he just moved up because there was no more worlds to conquer. You know, he had already cleaned out middleweight. But where do they stand historically? Boy, that's a good question. Well, I think that Canelo did what he could do at his era, but if you wanted to have sat there like kind of like a Marvin Hagler and just waited around for people to show up and become something, he I mean, maybe he could have been one of the the better middleweights of all time, but yeah, I mean, and then for Golovkin, I mean, you have to wonder, Jesus, if he had gotten at some of these guys younger.
What's he taking, by the way?
He says like he's been packed into a bag of crisps.
Yeah, there's a bit of squelch going on in the background there.
His neighbour's pumping him in the car.
Oh,
You watching that movie again, Danny?
You getting finger blasted in the car, Donny, in the back seat. Donny.
Hey, got the memo, dude, but the sound is not great.
The sound's awful, mate.
Log off and log back on, Donny. You sound like somebody just doing a big giant five.
Get him out of here, Daryl.
Okay. Yeah, Donnie. Yeah. Donnie, hop off.
Move him out of here, Daryl.
Log off, log back on. So, one point I just before we move on from that is I think it's fair to say too that Golovkin made all of his defenses when they were on his terms at 160 pounds, and Canelo had very few defenses at the full middleweight limit, despite moving up to 175 at times now. So, I think that definitely works against him. Moving on, we're a little bit sparse on what we caught this week. Nothing too exciting. Steve, why don't you take us through what you caught on Friday?
Yeah, good question, actually. What did I catch on Friday?
Well, real quick, before we get into the British stuff, we did see stateside, we saw Carlos Takam taking on Makhmudov. Takam almost getting taken out in the first round before going the full distance in a fight that the bookies set at 3.5 rounds on the over-under. So people who saw us set at 6.5, they won some cash, Steve. So that started my Friday. What did yours entail?
No, that's good for you. Makhmudov taking the distance for the first time. I think I went for the KO within 5 rounds. So whenever he got knocked down in the first round, I was thinking, oh, great stuff. And then he was down again in the 6th or 7th. Makhmudov couldn't get rid of him. That's a good performance by Takam, getting 10 rounds with a big puncher like him. So maybe there's life left him after all. But I did see domestic level.
He would have gotten the draw if he hadn't gotten dropped in the 7th, Steve. Because I thought he was
winning as close as that,
round.
really?
Yeah, because it was 96-92, I think, on at least 2 of the cards. So if he would have won that round, not gotten dropped, like I said, I thought he was winning it before he got dropped in the 7th. That's a draw.
Wow, I didn't realize it's close as that. Maybe they're going to have to assess Makhmudov going forward then, actually, after that performance. I haven't watched it, but I am planning on watching it at some point. So I'll report back to you in a few weeks' time as and when I do. As for the BT stuff, there was a crunching KO. I think it was Brian Morena. Got rid of Frank Arnold. It was a bit of a sickening KO. There was also a guy who was about 4 foot tall as well on the undercard. Royston Barney Smith, who I alluded to last week, has quite the name. He knocked a guy out in the first round. And shout out in the main event to Denzel Bentley. Got a win over Marcus Morrison. I thought this might be a bit of a banana skin for Bentley. Morrison's a big puncher. He comes in, has a go, but he got cut. His nose was busted up. Bentley's been on the pod a couple of times. I have a bit of a soft spot for him. He's a nice guy. He's British level for sure. He can maybe get up to European level. I don't think he'll get beyond that. Quite defensively lax, which makes for good, exciting fights. Not afraid to throw a few shots. And he got Morrison out there in the 4th round. Joe Gallagher jumped in. It was a good Friday night card for Frank overall from what I saw of it. Didn't see the Channel 5 card, but that was what I saw. Fair play to Bentley, onwards and upwards.
All right. And Andy, the sparse bit that you might have caught on Saturday, and Rob, feel free to jump in afterwards if you caught any of this action.
Yeah, I just caught the main event on, I don't think it was main event, sorry, I think it was Chief Support on Channel 5, Gavin Gwynn against Craig Woodruff for the British title. Really competitive 50-50 fight. Ended in a draw. I think it was a majority draw, actually, 114 twice and 116-113 by Terry O'Connor. It was it was really hard to score actually. I was kind of like potting about making dinner at the same time, so I was kind of like watched it on and off, but really hard to score. I'm not really too surprised about a draw. I wouldn't have been complaining about either winning either side. Rematch needs to happen possibly. Natural rivalry, maybe get the rematch done in Wales. So I think both are Welsh, so get the rematch done there possibly. And it was just your typical British title fight, really, mate. Two competitive guys, both wanting it. I couldn't really split them. To be fair, I think the draw was probably a fair enough result. To be fair, although I think Woodruff felt he kind of won the fight without question. But without doubt, I think the rematch is going to happen. I think Lyndon Arthur won by knockout, I believe. I think he's still highly ranked with WBO at light heavyweight. I think Troy Williamson also got a win. I think we're talking about Troy Williamson fighting. Is it Josh Kelly? I think it was. So if that happens, I'm fancying Williamson heavily on that Josh Kelly win, like no question about it. Possibly even stop him. But that's all kind of really caught me. To be fair, just says I was kind of potting about, so I kind of give a bit more detailed breakdown. Other than that, it was a competitive fight, probably a rematch now needs to happen. But else did I catch? I don't have caught anything else actually. I missed the Canadian card. I forgot about that.
Kevin Lorena won in South Africa, didn't
Oh,
he?
that's right.
Abdullayev won in Russia, and there was something else. I can't remember what else under.
Yeah, Lorena was at Marius Wack, I think it was.
Yeah.
I seen the Frank Arnold knockout. Pretty brutal. He was badly hurt before he got stopped. Actually, I think it was kind of like he was really on thin ice by that point. He was really circling the ring. Looked dazed after the first knockdown. Nose seemed to be kind of bleeding quite heavily in that as well. Eyes just didn't look clear and got dropped. As I say, he done like a tree actually. There was a card for Germany. I think I had it on in the back. Then again, it was I can't remember who it was at this point. Actually, now I think about it, Ryan Ford, Matty. I think a guy for your neck of the woods. No, he's up near Canada. Sorry, I'm trying to remember who he fought. Did you fight Joshua Boatse? That's who it was. Got stopped off him. So no really kind of great pickings for me this weekend, mate. I was on the drink Friday night and it took all day Saturday to try and kind of get over it. So I've been spending my days trying to catch up and stuff.
Yeah, there's other than that card, it was just a little bit loose. Rob, I don't know if you caught any of that action whatsoever. There wasn't a whole lot happening.
I just saw the knockout again and the stoppage, which was an abomination. I don't know, like if we can. I don't really want to spend too much time. I don't think the boxing world is missing out on my insights from the fights that I didn't see over the weekend. But you'd be hoping that the corner's doing better in a situation like that for the chap. Like he could have been seriously hurt. And the fight should have been stopped before he got a chance to get fucking bludgeoned, like he did, which is terrible. I just hope he's okay. Like and. Yeah, the corner and the ref want to be having a look at themselves there. Like,
guess I'll have to
it's
look into
interesting
that
actually. I meant to say about the ref in that Frank Arnold fight. He seemed to wave it on pretty quick. Continue. Usually the British refs are a bit more kind of cautious, give them a good look.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the Jack. Is it the Jack Reese, the American style where they go have a little walk and let's just see are you okay? Like, you know what I mean? It's a good way to, I suppose, assess the fighter and see how they got their faculties. Like he looked gone behind the eyes, as you said. Like, he looked stunned. Like it's a bit worrying when the referee's fucking 2 yards from him and he can't see that. Like, and you can see it on the TV cameras at home. That's a bit.
Steve, do you remember when they go? I think what happened? Did they not get taken to the corner? His mouthpiece not come out, and then he got put back to neutral corner. He literally staggered to that corner.
Yeah.
Remember?
I think so. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I know it was a right hand at the end complete, and then Tell came in at the same time. But beforehand, there was definitely something that went on with the mouthpiece. I'm pretty sure Andy's right there.
Yeah, and it says he got put back to neutral corner to get the fight started again. I'm pretty certain he was kind of like wobbly going back to the ring. The eyes looked glazed, nose heavily bleeding, as we mentioned, and then the ending was fucking just brutal, mate. But yeah, the type of ending actually you would possibly cautiously say that he'll never be the same fighter again, possibly.
Sometimes I wonder who might be the same again, or some of our chatters like to thank them for being in there today. We got Willie Outstand 86, MJW, Matt Butters, Chris Butler, Cedric Sniff, Roy Grime, Ryan Ormerod, Frenchie, Ricky Graville, Yimmy Yappy, MRP, Deanch, to come on 12 days notice. Johnny H.C. Nelson, JRP, Neutral Corner. Let's see here. Leon the Canteen, Warrior Web, JG, Calcheds, Asif Ali. Let's find one more. And let's also give a shout out to our good friend MB up in the chat today.
Matty, can I just congratulate you there on
Yes.
Will You Stand 86 being turned into Willie Outstand? Brilliant misreading of that one.
It's just written down. I just kind of follow it, you know. Oh, Christ. Oh, one of these days.
Still outstanding at. Still outstanding at. He's done well.
I don't know. I have nothing, gentlemen. I have absolutely nothing. So I'll tell you who a lot of people think have nothing, and who they have written off. This Friday from New Jersey on ESPN. Y'all can catch it Saturday morning when you get your stuff together. Gonna have a card. Keyshawn Davis on that undercard, taking on Omar Tiena over 8 rounds. The headlining event on there, Shakur Stevenson taking on Robson Conceição for his WBC, WBO belts. Conceição, 2016 Olympian, ran Oscar Valdez close in a fight a few people thought he got a raw deal on. On this one, Rob, I know you're a big Shakur fan, but the bookies got him at minus 800. That's 8 to win 1. Man, I struggle to think that Conceição is that big of an underdog. This is a skilled operator, tall guy.
I think Stevenson is the real deal in probably every aspect of the fight game. You know, that way. I think he just has it. I was looking back at like little subtle clips of his last fight. Who did he beat in his last fight again?
I can't mind who it was, mate. But
Valdez, wasn't it?
No, he's had a fight since then, mate. But that Valdez fight, he should have won it. He just didn't put the application in there.
But Shakur, I think he just has everything, man. I think he's a sharp counter puncher. He's strong. He's very close with Andre Ward to do a lot of work together. Like he's kind of learning from the best. And I got pelters years ago, probably rightfully now. When I look back at it, I said I thought Conlon had a chance of beating him when they both turned over. But I think he's a legit shout for retiring undefeated a la Ward. Like I don't think there's anybody around that can touch him, and I think he's only going to get better as he goes on and up. And I think Conceição is actually a fighter who will bring out the best in Stevenson, and I wouldn't rule out a stoppage here, even though he's not a massive puncher. Oh, it was Jamel Herring, wasn't it? It was Jamel Herring. It was Stevenson's the last fight I was watching but some of the counter punching.
Some of the counter punching leaves Rob speechless. Steve.
Yeah, Rob.
Steve, this is one of those fights where the
Floyds and the Wards.
Hey, Rob, we lost you for about 20 seconds there.
Sorry, I was getting on Shakur Stevenson saying that he's got flashes of the and bits in his game that are very Floyd and Andre Ward and all the recent great Black American fighters, and I think his talent is probably understated in terms of his drawing power versus the likes of a Gervonta Davis or somebody like that. But I can't see anybody beating him in the division that he's in, the one below and the one above. So that's kind of how highly I rank Shakur Stevenson as a fighter. I think he's probably proved me wrong, especially over his last 3 or 4 performances. He's been just getting better and better. And yeah, I'm interested to see where he goes. I think he'll stop Conceição.
That would be impressive. I honestly think that would be a heck of a statement. Steve, I mean, this is a guy with a heck of an amateur pedigree. He's a larger guy. So I think in ways this is kind of preparing Shakur for the minefield he might be getting ready to run into at 135 pounds. Or personally, I'm hesitant to say he will be the top of the heap because unlike Floyd, he doesn't have the power to keep people honest as he moves up, my opinion.
Yeah, he's really filled out into a nice fighter, very defensively sound. If you were to stop Conceição, then that would be a statement. That would be an excellent statement because skills pay the bills. We all know that. But to a certain point, we want to see blood and guts. We want to see people coming on the front foot, not playing with their food. He was head and shoulders above Oscar Valdez. Even though Conceição is a worthy opponent, former Olympian, he's coming off the back of a win over Xavier Martinez. The fight does feel slightly redundant to me, given the fact that Conceição lost, quote unquote, to Valdez, and Valdez was so soundly beaten by Stevenson. The line follows along to say to me, Conceição has no chance against Stevenson, and I give him very, very little chance. The only interest for me is if Stevenson steps forward and knocks him out. I think Stevenson's very defensively sound, but also he's hiding a little bit of glass, but he's going to hide it very, very well. If people can get through to him, there's a chance. He does go on the back foot against Nakathila. Now, Nakathila showed against Bichelt that he is the legitimate puncher, so there's a reason probably why Stevenson's joint out that night, but his bigger tests will come higher up in weight. As I said, you can only drop off the back foot for so long and pay the bills with your skills. You have to stand and fight at some point to be exciting and be a knockout explosive artist like the likes of Gervonta Davis is. So I want to see Stevenson stepping forward and knocking these guys out, starting with Conceição, because he's definitely got the skill. As Rob mentioned, the trajectory was him against Conlon, and they have completely diverged since that point. Stevenson's on another level. He's going places for sure.
Yeah, the talent is there. Hugely talented. Andy, are you feeling any bit that Conceição is going to give him troubles? I personally, just going back, I honestly think that this is probably his most difficult in his last 3 or 4 fights.
Again, mate, I think it really depends on Conceição and how he approaches the fight. As I go back to the Valdez fight, that fight was there for him to win, and it's like not so much that he gave up, but I think he just didn't do enough. If a point deduction maybe kind of made it kind of slightly narrow on the cards for Valdez, who had obviously had that issue not long before that fight about the drug situation. He seemed to kind of end the fight quite strong. Was that an issue? Possibly, I don't know. I'm trying to remember actually. Did any of us have Conceição winning that fight against Valdez, or were we just all kind of properly just pissed off?
I can't remember.
I can't
Didn't
remember.
He fade a bit down the stretch, wasn't the Conceição?
Mate. Yeah. He was on the back foot a fair bit, circling the ring, maybe thinking he'd won the fight. I think he's a bit more activity, he would have won that fight without
Valdez, Andy, I think, had done the whole drugs cheat thing before. Do you remember? And WBC had let him fight, even though he had a bit of a black mark against him.
Yeah, definitely. So Stevenson's just seemed to have picked up another gear, another level in the last year, 2 years now. I mean, destroying Hearn and then absolutely just taking Valdez apart to the point he was on the he fucking cried after the fight. That just kind of says it all, really. And I don't think really Valdez did anything much with Stevens. I just thought he was absolutely brilliant that night. Probably his best performance in his career thus far. So that being said, just basing it off those 2 fights and just like obviously the Valdez fight alone, I got to fancy Stevenson heavily. I think if he starts tagging Conceição often and doing it early, I could probably see Conceição going into his shell a little bit, and ultimately we could end up seeing a landslide shutout, or maybe even a potential late stoppage. Again, it would depend on what what Conceição can do with Stevenson. Can he hurt him? Can he back him up? And can he keep him occupied? If he can't, that's a long night. I think Stevenson's got all the tools to stop him, but I'm going to go safe and say that he wins on points.
He's the Brazilian has to embrace his inner Freitas if he wants a chance in this one.
He's got to bring the favelas into the ring. That's what he's got to do, mate. Got to go street on the guy. But
I think I agree with you guys. I think that Stevenson wins it. I think it's going to be on the cards, but I think Conceição is going to win a few more rounds. I'm thinking 116, 112-ish.
Nah, no way. 118, 110. I'll be surprised if he wins a couple of rounds, Conceição.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. He's 5'10", good reach. I know that didn't help Herring necessarily, but I don't think that was all a Jamel Herring that was left in that ring against.
Is it a 12-rounder at least?
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. Good thing, because it's for 2 title belts, BC and the BO on the line. So thank Christ. And
even the Ballfather couldn't have pulled that one off as a 10-rounder.
And again,
they tried all right.
Yeah, no way.
Keyshawn Davis on that undercard. He's definitely a blue chip prospect, one to keep an eye on. Saturday, moving over to Nottingham. Gonna have a card over there that was originally supposed to have Lee Wood taking on Mauricio Lara in a fight that was interesting because Lara was actually the favorite in that one. Definitely an interesting fight since he was the title challenger. But now headlined by a still entertaining main event. Kid Galahad and Maxie Hughes. Chief support going to be Hannah Rankin and Terry Harper at 154 pounds for Rankin's belt there. We're throwing this Kid Galahad, Maxie Hughes into the prediction league. Rob, you are now up by a point. Why don't you let me know what you think about this 12-round contest?
Shakur and who are we talking about?
Kid Galahad and Maxie Hughes. Do you not pay attention?
I'm going to say Galahad on points.
Galahad on points, even moving up. And Steve, I'll tell you what, for me, that's interesting. Hughes, I think, is a really underrated fighter on an upward trajectory, naturally bigger guy. What are you thinking?
I agree with Rob. I think Galahad on points as well. Hughes is an old-fashioned, old-school fighter. He's done things the hard way. We've gone through the story time and again. Lovely fella, been on the pod, and he's done really well for himself. But Galahad is he's boring, and sometimes people use that against him. He's actually very effective, very fast, good control of range, fought at a better level. I think he'll just be too sharp for Hughes and win on points. I know that Terry Harper and Rankins and the support for this, but this card took a massive shit whenever Lara and Wood was off. I was looking forward to that fight. I was surprised they took it in the first place. I think he was a mandatory or whatever, but I never thought that would go ahead. Lara is a dangerous risk-reward fighter for Wood, and Wood will be looking for other things now. I'll be very surprised if they remake that fight. And I think the card has just took a shit on itself now, unfortunately. As I say, Hughes, Galahad, two very good fighters, but it's just lost all of its appeal for me now. And I think Galahad will just be too smart over the 12 rounds against a very good, solid, honest pro like Hughes. Galahad on points for me.
Andy, what are you thinking?
I take the guy's points, and I can understand why they maybe picked Galahad to win on points, but you need to remember this is up at 135 now. The last time we saw Galahad, he got iced off Kiko Martinez at 126. He's going up 2 weight divisions. This was a guy whose best weight was super bantamweight. Is it 2 steps too far? I don't know. You say Maxie's is quite a big dude for the weight. I don't know what times of height he's going to have over Galahad, if it's going to be much, to be fair. I'm not too sure. I think it's definitely got distance fight written all over it. And I can understand why Galahad maybe get picked to go in points. But I can see why you're going to go with Maxie Hughes. I know that by the way you're talking.
He's not a big underdog. Hughes is only paying 2-1. The bookies are seeing this close.
Yeah. So again, it might just come on the night, really. It might even come down to the last few rounds, who wins it more or who wants it more, really. I'm not too sure yet, mate. I'm gonna go way off base and say it's a draw.
That would be worth 5 points, Andy. And I don't think a draw is out of the realm on this one. I don't think you're far away from what's going to happen, because I get the feeling that Hughes is going to do enough to win, but I'll be damned if I think the judges are going to give him credit for it. That's kind of the hunch I'm on. Will it be enough of a lean to give Galahad the win or the draw? I don't know, but I'm going to go on the outside. I'm going to go Hughes on points. Again, I'm with you guys. I think this is a distance fight, but if there was a stoppage in this, I think it's going to be Hughes, just larger man who physically imposes himself despite not having a great history of punching power. That's personally
even though he's a bigger man. I'd be surprised. That would be a statement even at this higher weight for Galahad. If he were to get stopped by Hughes, that would be a big win for Hughes. I'd be surprised to see that.
We were absolutely draw jobbed when he got iced off Kiko, though, wasn't it? It was like properly. It wasn't even debatable.
Kiko always had that, though, didn't he? In his locker, no, it was a surprise, but he was always the puncher. But yeah, no, we were
taking anything out of Galahad. That do we know? Was maybe mentally, physically?
Yeah.
Maybe, but I think just because he's with Ingle, I don't think the weight is going to be a problem. And I think
Pringle shakes. You think, mate?
I think he's going to get good nutrition, and I think I just think he'll pick Hughes' pocket.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's at least an interesting fight. The books think it's an interesting fight. We're a little split on it. Not the fight we were looking forward to, but it kind of salvages the card in its own way. So that'll be
I'll
Saturday.
tell you what, I'd be absolutely bollocks, by the way, if Galahad gets a fucking a close, shitty decision here, like, because I want to see Maxi get fucking more opportunities. Galahad's had his chance. He fucked it up in the past and that as well with the drugs test. And he's getting another opportunity for another belt. So
I agree with you. I think it's one of them tales of a silver platter fighter against a guy who's had to earn every bit of it.
I thought Eddie would have lost Galahad's phone number after that Kiko Martinez knockout because he brings nothing in terms of excitement, bums on seats as far as that I'm aware of. So he's got nothing appealing about his style or anything like that. But hey ho, here we are.
Yeah.
That's good. Just filling undercard space, wasn't he? If we clarify, I mean, Eddie.
Yes,
the stinking undercard. I imagine that as a main event.
It's a great undercard fight, though, right? It's a good support fight, domestic fight. I think but not as a main event.
It's a typical DAZN support card. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah. So, well, I guess that means that you will be tuning into the card from Manchester. That'll be airing simultaneously, Rob. Headline Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker.
Pay-per-view, baby.
Gonna be oh my god. I gonna have to pull out
the
old
UK
Inferno
twig.
Twig.
I don't
Inferno
know
Twig time. Chief support on that, Amanda Serrano taking on Sarah Mahmoud, trying to add Mahmoud's IBF title to her WBC and WBO at featherweight. Also gonna have let's see here, who do we got? Michael Magnesi versus Anthony Kakachi over 12 rounds. Ekau Esserman against Samuel Ansui over 12 rounds, and Nathan Heaney against Jack Flatley over 10 rounds. Steve, take us through that undercard before we get to the main event, and then we'll resume talk on that when we get there.
This is like torturing me, Matty. I'm gonna have to take you through the undercard on the actual night itself. Going through now, it feels like you're just torturing me here in like one of those Serbian hotels. But I'll try my best, I suppose. Let's have a look here. Nathan Heaney.
Are you trying to say that Maddie's the type that would go to fucking hostel and fucking solder out
I couldn't think of it exactly. That's what I was trying to think of, the hostel, yeah. Slicing my ankles off.
I own a Serbian film on DVD.
That's disturbing, by the way. Get that bin, that film. That's fucking disgusting.
Fuck off, you pussy.
Anyway, yeah, disturbing undercard action here. So, Nathan Heaney, that's a good step up for him against Jack Flatley because he's been in against Cannes so far. Flatley's at least an active fighter. Serrano against Mahfoud. Mahfoud's from the Faroe Islands. I don't think we should ever have a fighter from the Faroe Islands on a chief support of any card, so that's a red flag for me. Echo Esserman's a good fighter against Samuel Antwi. It's a good domestic scrap. Is it worthy of popping up a pay-per-view? Not so sure. Anthony Kakachi, I know Anthony, very, very talented. Finally getting his shot, IBO title against Michael Magnesi. He looks rough enough from Italy in the photo on BoxRec. Looking down his record quickly, has fought nobody of note. Lola losing records early on in his career as well. Yeah, the undercard isn't much to write home about, to be honest. I think I'll be flashing between that and the DAZN card. Hopefully they'll stagger the main event, so we'll be able to see both of them, Matty. But I'm not raving about that undercard. 20 quid as well, apparently, so yeah.
Andy, give me any thoughts you have on the undercard. Or maybe he took out for a pee. I see messages there. Rob.
He's away for a drink.
Do you have any thoughts on the undercard?
I do. And the thoughts are, fuck this undercard. I'm not watching it. That's what it is.
Wow. You guys aren't going to be having much fun this weekend there. What the hell's the deal?
You're not supposed to enjoy this sport, Matty.
Well, then why
I said before, like, and I've been watching boxing so long, like, literally since fucking McGuigan, Pedroza, like, and probably before that, like, you know what I mean, with me dad, that, like, I've been watching fights for so long that I only really want to watch and enjoy top fighters fighting. Like, I couldn't, you know, fellas on the come up and all. I know it's a struggle, but domestic scraps and all, not for me. Other people love them, just not for me.
Yeah, it's as an Irishman, you've just had your fill of domestic violence, right?
Oh, Rob, did you take that one like Canelo, Rob, off the side face?
But I tell you, like, the stuff that used to be commonplace in times gone by. My dad used to tell one about a fella in the pub, and he was working on the ships or whatever, and he come home, like, and he'd be wanting to go for a drink, but his wife was a scary character, and he was wanting to go for a drink with his brother-in-law one night, like, and the brother-in-law said, "Listen, if she gives you any trouble, just go home, give her a box." Right? And your man's like, "What?" And he goes, "Listen, I'm her brother. I'm telling you, if she's out of line and she won't let you go to the pub, you tell her you're going to the pub, and if she acts up, hit her a smack." Right? So they thought it's not good advice. I wouldn't advise it to any of the listeners to try it in between talking about Porky. I wouldn't advise you to break fucking character, go smack your wives up. But anyway, the next day, there's a lesson to this story. The next day, they saw the fella covered in fucking plasters, cuts and bruises, and they said, "What happened, pal?" He said, "You didn't fucking tell me she was going to hit me back."
Fuck's sake. So yeah, just like stood there and they spent their fuck off. Aye, that's going to go down well. Like
they were having a boxing debate, and the same fella is supposed to say they were saying on about fucking Cassius Clay at the time, as he was known. And the boy said to him, "What would you know about Cassius Clay?" And he was like, "Cassius Clay? What would I know about her? I'm fucking married to her."
Fuck's sake. It's like a Bernard Manning set here, Matty. Go on.
There's nothing worse by. I've seen a couple of the guys who like under the wing of the wife, absolutely fucking petrified when they get home on the Friday. They hand in their fucking cash to them straight away. "Give me the fucking money. There's your $5 for your fucking only pint in the weekend you're getting, the wee scrawny cunt. Fuck off." You know, she takes a lot of piss in her peenie.
Andy, I feel like
Yes.
you should be interested in this undercard because
Undercard.
the undercard of the Joe Joyce undercard, because you got Amanda Serrano going to unify another title against Sarah Mockfood. Hold on, Sarah Mockfood, who currently lives in Denmark, but she was born in the Faroe Islands. How many people can say that? More sheep can say that than people, Andy.
So what's her middle name? Sarah, where's my food? You know?
I don't know what her middle name is.
Mate, I ain't watching that. Let me see if I can pull this card up here.
Not after that performance Serrano put in against Taylor.
I didn't even watch
that.
Your buck? I can't remember even seeing that fight, mate. That's
what the
memorable
fuck is
it was.
wrong with you?
I'll watch Esserman against Antwi. Antwi seems to, if I recall, is a bit of a power hitter, so that might be a decent fight. But it's a poor card for pay-per-view, mate, to be fair. Has any fights dropped off this card for it to be pay-per-view?
I don't think I've heard of anything dropping.
Nathan Heaney, he's an ex-friend of the pod, as you know, as well, Steve.
There are no ex-friends of the pod. There are only friends of the pod, Andy.
Well, didn't hear back from me anyway, mate. So, it's no great shakes, to be fair. There's a couple of decent, or that one decent domestic card, Kakachi against, that's that Italian guy. I've not seen much of him, to be fair. I think I've ever seen one of his couple of his WSB fights back in the years, but I'll pick Kakachi in that one. It's Joyce Parker for me. That's what I'm kind of more interested in, but I'm disappointed. Like, this is pay-per-view. I just got looking at it. I was expecting to be on normal BT, and I was like, I maybe go and get the BT for the month. It's £25 for the month. But I'll be fucking that off now, seeing how it's on the box office. So,
yeah. So, Steve, I'll before we get to the main event here, and we're gonna have to send it to Rob for the pick, but I want to tell you that I feel that there might be doom ahead for a couple of fighters, because I currently have a parlay going, 4 legs, which is at 37-1. And I also have it in the round robins. I have a total of $25 invested in it, and I would take more than $400 if everything hits. I got Makhmudov going over 3.5 rounds, thanks to our discussion last week. Canelo and Golovkin to go the distance. I need to add Joe Joyce by knockout and Conor Benn by knockout.
What?
And it will be completed. I feel, but
you need to get your money at the homeless by. You're just fucking throwing it away.
That's what I was going to say, right? Gamble responsibly. Don't be a degenerate like this fucker. Look at him hoping for Conor Benn to beat Eubank by knockout.
Let's go. So hold on. So my thoughts on that is, in that one I'm winging it, Rob. I don't think that Eubank can successfully make the weight. And it's also the last fight in that group, so I'll be offered a chance to cash out as well on that. So if this hits this week. But Rob, why don't I go into you on the predictions? Tell me why I was stupid to pick Joe Joyce by knockout this weekend. Rob.
Yeah, I don't know.
Stupid bet, to be fair.
I think we've seen Parker down before. We know how relentless Joe Joyce is. I've said before it's going to take, I think, a top heavyweight to beat him. But then listening to Andy and that on some of the boxing ID stuff, they're very confident in the Parker camp that they can outbox Joe Joyce. I'd say the fight's going to be a lot of Parker punching with him and looking to get out. And we'll see how Joyce copes with that style. But so far, even in his career, even though he ships a lot of shots in his career, he never looks hurt. Now, how long you can keep doing that, I don't know. And it's the one that you don't see is going to get you. So maybe there's a plan there somewhere. But I'm not really sure where I'm going on this fight at the moment, to be honest with you. So I'm wait and see. But
you have to pick.
Joyce points is giving me is what I'd go for if I was pushed, but not sure.
All right, I'm putting you down as Joyce on points. Putting that lead on the line. All right. Steve, my thoughts on this one kind of is I just feel like this is going to be a tale of two fights. I think that Parker is going to come out, outspeed, outland Joyce over the first 6 rounds. But I think that this really boring, underwhelming career of Parker's is really going to be hitting a train this weekend, because I think he's going to run into a real heavyweight who's going to play the role of big man. And I think the second half of the fight is going to be all Joyce.
Yeah, I agree. I hope you're right, actually. This is the time to get rid of Parker now. I've had enough of him. He's had his time at the top. He's had his opportunities. He's had some good wins as well. But he just bores me to tears now. I want to see Joyce taking him out. I don't see Parker stopping Joyce. I think that would be very surprising, even though Joyce takes a lot of shots. Parker couldn't even stop Chisora, as one of the boys in the chat was saying. Chisora was hanging on by a gnat's cock for about 10 rounds, and he never finished him off. He's never been a big finisher like that. So I think that Joyce, and probably on points like Rob, but to make things interesting, I'm going to go all out and hope that Joyce stops him, which would be a statement, because Parker, for all of his sins, is tough. He can box. He showed against Takam that his engine was and all that, but he's improved since then. But I just think he doesn't offer anything for the heavyweight division for me now. I just want us to get rid of him. And I think it's better for the division if Joyce wins and carries on. So I'm going for Joyce by stoppage. I think Parker will have his moments. He'll obviously catch him and that, but Joyce just going to relentlessly keep grabbing him, leaning on him, coming forward, and Parker's gas tank will fail him, hopefully. The fact that Parker went the distance with Joshua as well back in the day shows he's tough and his resilience. I'm probably stupid doing this. I should match Rob. But as I said, for interesting factor, I'm going for Joyce and I hope that he stops Parker and gets rid of him.
Andy, this is I interestingly think that, and I'm not saying exactly, I would never rate him with an all-time great, especially Joyce. He's not a young man. He's up there in age. But I think at this point in time, Joyce can basically kind of be the George Foreman-ish of this heavyweight division. A guy that's going to move forward. He's going to be able to eat your shots and just be a big man and grind you down. Do you think he can grind down Joseph Parker this weekend?
I've been kind of leaning that way, to be fair, mate. I'm just trying to think, actually, off the top of my head, who Joyce's last couple of fights was. There was one fight that he fought recently, he just didn't look great. And I can't remember if it was a hammer fight or it was a Takam fight, it just looked kind of laborious. The thing for me is, obviously, Joyce gets the engine going after a few rounds. He starts to pick up speed and he starts to kind of lay the heat on. For me, it's down to what Parker does, because he's got to try and combat Joyce's stamina and his ability to come forward all the time. He's got to try and lay a dent in them. If he can't, he's got to stick and move, use the legs. And as Steve says, we've seen issues with Parker's gas tank in the past, especially down the stretch. If you remember the Andy Ruiz fight, he was winning that fight, first half of it, and then he seemed to tire, and Ruiz started to get more into the fight and made it close in the scorecards, maybe won it by 2 points or whatever. And that. So really, it's going to come down to the fact is, can Joyce get him tied in somewhere, get him up against the ropes, and just lay enough punishment on him for the latter half of that fight and maybe stop him late? I'm still thinking about it, to be fair, like Rob, but I'm kind of siding that Joyce maybe can stop him late. Even though they don't say with much great confidence, to be fair, but I've just not seen anything for Parker much, to be fair, in the last couple of fights that suggests he's improved as much. You know, if you look at the two Chisora fights, he went split decision with one of them. I think he even got dropped against Chisora, possibly.
He doesn't have the urgency to
He's
fight
not
a guy
power.
like this. He's not going to be able to just hang out against Joyce. Joyce is going to be in his face.
For a guy who's got something like 20 odd knockouts and what is it, 30 or 35 fights, whatever that, he's not had a good knockout or a knockout over or knockout win, sorry, over a top fighter, a top contender, shall we say. It's all been decisions or a decision loss. The Hughie Fury fight was absolutely dog shit, mate. Dog shit. The what's his name? The Kajanu fight, dog shit. Absolutely shocking. The Chisora rematch, one of the most contrived bollocks we've ever probably seen in 2021. So Junior Fa, I think that's the fight I'm thinking about, where he was absolutely just awful to watch. I think possibly. I think they were old amateur rivals back in the day.
Who Lucas Brown obliterated.
Exactly. So again, we don't want to go into triangle theories and that, but I just think after the Joshua fight, Parker's, I don't know if it was his hunger or whatever, and that, you know, it just went right out the window. He got his payday, he's set up for life. And he's just been in the last 18 months, 2 years that he's relocated to England or Ireland, wherever he's moved to, near a Fury, so to speak. Was it Morecambe Bay? So he's trying to have another proper go at it. And if he loses this one, I would imagine this will be his last opportunity, unless he kind of wants to try and pick him up and try and roll again, possibly in that. But I think Joyce, once he gets started, providing he's no went over the hill, I think he'll probably get to him late. But again, it purely depends how Parker can maybe even put any dent in Joyce, which I don't see. I think he's got to stick and move with Joyce, but he can't do that for 12 rounds. At some point, I think Joyce is going to catch up to him. And even if he doesn't knock him out, I think he'll catch up to a point where he'll land enough punches on him to start hurting him, start wearing him down. And that's when the gas tank issues are going to start coming into question and that as well. So, you know, but is Parker 250? 240. I don't know what weight he is, but he can be. He's been 240 anyway, so you just don't know. A guy of Joyce's size, which Joyce weighs 260, 270. That's a hell of a lot of weight, regardless, man.
And Joyce was still punching in the 10th against Dubois. You know,
There you go.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna go with Joyce late stoppage, mate.
You know, that's like I said, I got that bet going, and that's what I've been thinking, guys. I know you guys kind of laughed at me, and then you kind of agreed with the direction I was going on my bet. So
No.
It wasn't that one. It
was the Conor.
It was the Conor Ben one we were laughing at.
Like I said, guys, that was the added that number one added serious juice to the bet. It's the last one, so if you hit the first three, they'll offer you a cash out usually in between to get you clear of the bet. And I'm going to be watching that weigh-in intently. This fight has all the makings of being a poor man's Pacquiao versus De La Hoya. It really does. If he can't make that weight safely, you know, it's a different story. And his dad might just be doing theatrics and trying to sell the fight, saying he can't make it safely. But I don't know. I personally think it's I don't feel bad about that going.
I thought at first you were comparing Joyce Parker to De La Hoya Pacquiao. I was thinking, what?
No.
He's fucking lost it on that bomb tonight.
Yeah, no. But so I got Joyce stoppage on that one. And again, I think that, man, as we get closer, it's all about how he makes that weight, guys. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have no tank, right? So it'll be interesting. I don't know. But I feel good about this week. You guys in agreement with me on that one. Moving forward, I hope we have good news to report, because this would basically make up for everything I've lost in the last year and a half. It's been a slow slide of pain, Steve. It's been
for all of us, Matthew, for all of us.
Yeah. The good news is, I'm still ahead lifetime. I've cashed out ahead, so I'm playing on house money. But
we just want to reach over the pond and help you.
Yeah, those chips, that stack is dwindling. It's dwindling.
You need to go to Gamblers Anonymous, mate. That's where you need to go to.
Nah.
How much do you lay down on a week betting?
10, $20, maybe a little bit more if I.
Oh, that's nothing. That's
No,
packing that's
no.
packing of cigarettes.
I,
and shit about that.
I like gambling, and I like trying to get these stuff together over, when you have a little bit of an outlook over time, just to try to hit something crazy. And I've hit a few good ones, and that's why I already cashed out money and shit. I just haven't hit anything particular in a while. But NFL's up. I usually do good on football, I always wait a few weeks on football though, because injuries, Andy, there's just so many injuries early in the season. And,
I see Trey Lance got carried off there, mate. So Rangers have brought back in Garoppolo there. So
look at Dak Prescott gets hurt the first game of the season.
Yeah,
who didn't see that shit coming?
There was a guy in the university or the college football got knocked out of his teammate earlier yesterday, I believe, but also got his leg broken at the same time. Didn't know anything about it till he woke up with a state. I'll send it to you. Well, it was bad. It was gruesome as fuck.
Jesus. Steve, I see you jumping in. Are you there to scold us, or do you have?
Yeah, it's 10:30. Come on to fuck.
Well, we have been going on. Well, why don't you take it over for the value of the week, Steve?
Thanks very much. Yeah, we've got quite a few this week. Matty's on the call, Andy and Rapping Rob Kelly. To lead us in this week, we were talking about Joyce against Joseph Parker. Well, let me tell you something. It's pay-per-view, everybody, as you well know. And these two proper hate each other. Joe Joyce has been absolutely scathing all week, starting off with this one.
What message have you got for Joseph Parker ahead of Joyce versus Parker on BT Sport box office September the 24th? I want you to look into that camera there and I want you to scare him, Joe.
Joseph Parker, I'm knocking you out, and you know I am. So anyway, but we'll just let's do the talking in the ring, and let our fist do the talking, and my fist is going in your face.
Bringing that banter.
For fuck's sake.
Bringing that Ali linguistic skills, baby.
It's going to be rough and tough.
Oscar's going to have a tough come down after last night's binge. Anyway. Jesus
Joyce,
he's not
man,
a bad
like God help him, like he can't fucking talk to save his life, can he? It's an awful thing to be saying about fighters, like that we worry about how to talk, like. But Jesus Christ, like, if I was the production there, I would have said, "Here, man, come on, we do it again. Just picture you don't like the guy. You're gonna get ready to fight him. Like, say something that's gonna fucking excite. Ooh, my fist's gonna. Ooh."
Rob Tebbett knows what he's doing there, I think. He's a nice big guy, isn't he, though, Joe Joyce? Good luck to him next weekend, I say.
Was that Rob? That was a stitch up, man.
Yeah, I think it was a stitch up.
Rob.
I think it was a stitch up too. Talking to Joe Kennedy was in touch during the week, and he's come up with a little, 7 stages from, or whatever it is, Sal Farah to Muhammad Ali. This has been some unrivaled work from Joe Kennedy here. So here we go, Andy. Sal Farah was beaten by Adrian Granat, who was beaten by Otto Wallin, who was beaten by Tyson Fury, who beat Klitschko, who beat Ray Mercer, who got beat by Larry Holmes, who beat none other than Muhammad Ali. 7 steps from Bolivian for the greatest.
Brilliant.
God.
Brilliant.
Jesus Christ. Get yourself a life. That is incredible work, though. That is incredible work.
Unrivaled.
You should be able to date with the lineal heavyweight crown. Actually, you should be able to go through everybody just about.
Oh, I'd say
do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all close to greatness. Talking of greatness, here's Danny Young nominated.
This looks amazing. This, by the way, this
phone booth fight, Sandy. What's next? Fighting on top of shipping containers over the water. Did you see this?
I seen bits of it, mate. This guy got absolutely fucking.
He was in a state, wasn't he?
Aye, and he couldn't go down because there was nowhere to fall. He was basically standing in the corner of the fucking floor box getting punched the fuck. The Russians, man, are just nuts. They just fucking do anything. They've got the slapping contest and they're fucking bringing in, fighting in phone booths.
Did you see the fucking guy? One of the guys, he went in there, he had glasses on. He went in, he knocked out 100 fellas in a row. And then the referee said, "Fuck's sake, Superman, you're taking the piss now." Like,
Steve, what you think is a phone booth fight is actually the sad truth of Doctor Who. See, in that booth is not a fight that's going on. It's actually that the doctor is a little rapey and his assistant is fighting to get out.
The guard's in there. Sticky in the phone booth with the guard. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a priest,
There he is.
With his painted toenails.
Someone in the fucking chat said the Red Shoe Diaries. Well, how about the No Shoe Diaries? Here comes the goth.
Someone's living the posh life there.
Looks like he's living in that fucking seaside town that the Lost Boys was set in, doesn't he? Look at him.
Only thing I couldn't stomach about this time is all the goddamn gads.
There he is.
Imagine that. That's the guy now when he's 5 a.m. in Vegas. Do you see the toenails? Got the toenails done.
Oh, he's having a midlife crisis. Like this fella. You can tell the DAZN money's running out. There's Eduardo. I don't know what he's dressed in this time.
He looks like he's dressed in a fucking Crip outfit. You want to watch where he's going in America? God forbid he's the victim of a drive-by.
It's just a website. Why has he only got one sleeve? Fucking hell. $2,000 that thing,
That's a sensational attempt, man. Whatever the fuck it was an attempt at, I don't know, but that is fucking.
If I was judging by his outfit, I think he's trying to pick up a gay Indian.
It looks like some mad
Native American
designer.
man. You don't get us cancelled for fuck's sake.
It does. It's just some mad ritual design or something like that, you know.
Oh dear, DAZN going from strength to strength. Anyway, we go again, or more like here we go again. MF and DAZN. We've got Jay Swingler taking on Churdleys. Let's have a look through the card here. We've got Astrid Wet. She's back again against Keeley. Halal Dam. We've got Slim. We've got AJ Bunker. We've got Swarms.
So,
AJ
Who the
Bunker.
fuck are these assholes?
At this point, right? At this point, you can stick your fork in DAZN, right? Because it's done. Because if they're using fucking porn star celebrity fights to prop up the undercard of their fucking pay-per-view events, it's over, man, right? Just let go. Forget about it, DAZN. Where the fuck does Canelo go now, right? Beat the fucking Ghost of Golovkin last night. Quadruple G. Fucking, there's fucking, you're hanging your hopes on a fight that might still not get made in Conor Benn and Eubank, and now you got porn stars. Fuck off, man, will you? Forget about DAZN. There's no fights for you.
Well, and they're going up against the Shields Marshall card on that day, so they're obviously not.
I know which one I'd be watching.
Audience.
Like, I won't be watching fucking Astrid Wet. Well, not in the fucking DAZN card anyway.
Bit of Jack Bean, Rob, Ashley Raksu, no?
Rob's
Jack Bean was in. Jack Bean was one of the movies he was in, I think, Steve.
Rob and them were watching Astrid Wet fight on YouTube. We were watching it on fucking RedTube. That's what we did.
So, RedTube Diaries.
Fucking Jay Swingler looks like he's a fucking Chechen mercenary, and fucking Churdleys looks like he's gonna come to your door and have to tell you about why he's a sex offender.
Oh, brilliant spot, Rob, man. Astrid Wet taking out Jack Bean live on DAZN.
Rough times.
You wouldn't get that off Joe Kennedy. No shots.
Anyway, we're moving on. Sonny Davis says if you click on Harold Graham's Wikipedia page and find his boxing record, you'll find an opponent, James Cook. However, when clicking on his name, you get redirected to the British explorer, navigator, cartographer, and captain in the British Royal Naval, no less, Matty. So Wikipedia isn't quite the resource we all thought it to be last week.
Thank God he never fought someone named Earl Sandwich.
Exactly. Hopefully everybody can hear me still. The internet seems like it's playing up a little bit, but here's Marcos Villegas.
Kids don't listen for
Did you hear
shit.
those crickets, Steve? Did you hear them?
Hey, I had fucking 3 bangers in a row, Rob. You got to throw it against the wall to see what sticks. I had 3 fucking bangers.
What's a banger?
What? It's what you fucking have with your potatoes, you piece of shit.
We call them tatties, mate.
They're just getting through. Oh dear. What about this one then? Canelo would worn down Calzaghe and stopped him.
Aye, right. Sorry, well, fucking hell. What weight are we talking about? 668? Nah, it's just not happening. He's nowhere in doing Calzaghe, mate. Calzaghe's chin was good, and his fucking stamina was godly, and he could fucking fight at a fair like for 12 rounds. So I don't think so.
I have a feeling Canelo gets a decision.
Oh, aye, it goes without saying.
Not only that, I mean, let's talk about like stylistically, like what would absolutely give Canelo fits. A guy that throws a lot of punches from really weird angles, gets in and out quickly. Oh my God, have we seen that before? Fucking Calzaghe's a nightmare for Canelo, you fucking idiot.
Absolutely. Engine, stamina, work rate, a lot, exactly.
Kiss the muscles.
Eubank Jr. here, Matty. 24 days until me and Ben scrap for all the marbles. I'm not, maybe literal marbles they're talking about. I'm not sure what else is on the line.
All the marbles. Nobody's taking the time to explain to him what that means.
Is this car called the Marbles?
Must be. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Anyway, down in Oz, Paul Gallen, Origin Rumble, finally took place on September the 15th. He fought 2 people on the same night. I think he actually got knocked down by one of them at one point. Justin Hodges and Ben Hannant.
I just noticed that those 2 fights were actually 4-2s, 2-minute rounds. So fighting the women's rules there, apparently.
Well, maybe he can fight Ebony Bridges for 2 minutes. That'll be good, wouldn't it?
She's been annoying
It's Australia.
Aussie fucking hates her, man.
Who would you take in a handicap match between Paul Gallen against Ebony Bridges and Father Dave?
Ooh.
I'd love to see it. Things I'd love to see.
He's a priest, you know. Yeah.
Street justice. Father David is street justice.
There's Joseph Parker. He's set to star in his debut on-screen performance as the Kiwi in Romeo Hotel 11, a 4-part drama series. So Jay Wilson is an in-debt school teacher, finds himself struggling to balance his work and home life. This is where it gets into fantasy now for Parker. When a county line drug gang extort him for money, Jay runs out of options and is forced to hire a contract killer, only known as the Kiwi, Joe Boxer Parker.
Oh my God. Fuck
Must be difficult to maintain your home life in those circumstances, all right?
Horrendous.
Horrendous indeed. Steve Bunce tweeting out before, I think this was on Thursday evening, 2 nights of live boxing on British television, 2 British title fights, over 1 million viewers. Starts tonight with BT Sport and continues tomorrow with Channel 5. Forget the hype, the lies and the fakes. Proper boxing. Enjoy. So here we are. Forget the hype, the lies and the fakes. Over 1 million viewers and the fights haven't even taken place yet.
Everybody forget the hype and the lies and the fakes because Jade can't.
Oh, he's brutal, isn't he? What else we got here? Troy Williamson going in against David Benitez, Andy. I think it's fair to say Benitez has seen better days. Look at the fucking state of him.
Who's his manager like? If you got some graphics, man, high definition pixel photos you could send over for the flyer. Yeah, I have the very one.
He's just finished a sparring session. He's got a face like a bag of spanners. Fucking Jesus, man. Okay, he's come out the ring and got his fucking picture taken during a victory fucking picture or something like that. You know?
Hey, we need an
Troy
opponent
Williamson
for
looks like
Williamson.
Neymar, doesn't he?
We need an opponent for Williamson. Why don't you grab that guy who's going through the dumpster over there?
And the thing is, I was sitting watching the 2 German Trotter brothers there, by the way, last night. What a fucking shower of fakes they are, by the way.
Dan and
Just
Rodney.
conning.
That's what I was thinking.
Callie Snifferland. And fucking Missy, whatever you fucking what you call him. Fuck me, man. Haven't they put on a decent card for Channel 5 yet? I don't think,
For
mate.
fuck's sake, they're a state, aren't they?
Garbage. Bring back
man.
Mick. Where's Mick? Bring him back.
Exactly. But
Mick
your man
Hennessy, man. All's
Benitez.
forgiven.
Oh, God. Anyway, Joe Markowski. You have to be a subscriber to buy the pay-per-view, says Joe Markowski, the homeless hobbit himself. Imagine wheeling him out for anything serious. This fella who once said that it would never be pay-per-view. Let's listen to the evidence right now.
In the UK. Am I presuming that in the UK the Gennady Golovkin fight is not pay-per-view either? The Canelo Triple G fight, if it happens, it won't be a pay-per-view in the UK.
Thanks for that, Joe.
Get a life. Fucking bringing that back up.
You can one of my tweets for a few years back. Remember when DAZN announced their subscription payment changes or increases, and I messaged them saying, "Look, I can't wait for your pay-per-view for those premium events you're going to be putting on." And they come back to us and says there is no plans at the present moment to introduce pay-per-view in DAZN in UK or Ireland. Luckily, fucking 6 weeks later, what happens? We're announcing the pay-per-view leg, baby. Fucking hell. I'll bring it up later on my picks as well, because the whole outlay last night was fucking horrendous.
Was. looked as bad as this, Andy, you'd think.
Oh, what is that?
4'9" warrior.
Is that the offspring of fucking baby Jake McLala there, by the way?
How far away are they?
What the
The one over there are far away.
Jesus.
How the fuck did I miss this? And you know he's actually like an adult because he has a receding hairline.
What weight was that, by the way, just out of curiosity?
I have no idea.
Fucking stay that.
Like the baby growth, isn't it?
Well, if it was a catch weight, I know who came up.
These boxes are close. The ones over there are far away.
We're bolting, we're balmy, we're on the bit tonight.
Oh my god. Channel 5. No, it wasn't Channel 5, it was BT, wasn't it? Anyway, Matthew Butters is in the chat tonight. It says, what's the odds on this failing within a year? What a hater. The Zone Bet, a new name in sports betting. There for you, Matty. The journey starts now. Free £5 bet. Free £5 bet, Matty.
Matt,
Well,
you need to get all over that one, mate.
Sometimes they give you like these big bonuses when you join up for a small amount of money. So like I don't know, I might throw 25 if they give me like a free $200 or something.
Free £5 bet, Matty.
With the money that the Zone's losing on
We're
fights,
getting
and
to the
fighters
truth
these
now.
days, mate. We'll get to the issue, but you can actually reinflate them with the fucking money that you fucking bet.
We're getting to the truth now. You see this? This is fucking gamblers. They're sneaky. You have to watch him. You have to fucking analyze the statements. Last week, a few minutes ago, he was like, "Oh, I spent $10." Now he's like, "I'll throw 25 if they're going to give me free 200 bets." Look at him.
It's to open the account. I'm not saying I'm going to boo a $25 bet. I'm going to get the free bets.
I
that
know
they
what
have.
you're saying,
Yeah.
buddy. I know what you're saying, buddy.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. This has been pick on Matty day to day. Like, guys are picking on my
That's fucking every Sunday.
scorecard.
Shut up. Get over it.
Ryan Ormerod's being a dick and telling you guys to fire me in the chat. This has been a very, very
You deserve to be fired for that one.
Fire the host. Yeah, good idea.
That 114 scorecard, mate. Fucking hell. You have a committee meeting about this.
He could just fire
I
us
didn't want to
get,
be
like-
shocked, and I wasn't shocked. You guys were shocked. Live your life shocked.
He could just fire us against economics and Joe Kennedy, and nobody would be able to tell the difference.
Steve would be laughing constantly like he was at a Kevin Bridges concert.
Yeah.
Or something like that, you know?
yeah, loving it. Me slapping it all in the background.
Oh, well said, Danny Young. Well said. Yeah,
That was it.
analysing.
Danny Young was the fucking. Danny Young was the fucking Aussie. Danny Young was the missing Aussie. So we had Aussie Andy and Rob, fake Aussie Andy and Rob, and fake Maddie.
Here, Rob, you mentioned
Already
about
lost
analysing.
Oz to cricket. What more do you
we lost
fucking
it to cricket.
The season will be finishing shortly. Don't worry about it.
You
We're
mentioned
back.
about analysing behaviour, Rob. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw Anthony Croller in Marcus Morrison's corner on Friday night, giving him advice on the jab and where to find Maddie.
Hey, Maddie McCann.
Richard
Oh,
D. Hall,
Richard D.
remember
Hall,
last time
innit?
he was on the fucking, he had the jacket and everything, the haircut, it's fucking brilliant. If you know Richard D. Hall, like that is the fucking, but anyway, unbelievable.
Brilliant stuff.
Fucking, let's get to the bottom of the fucking Rendleshall UFO mystery. This is what we fucking need to find out. I was like, give me instructions while they're trying to fight it.
Oh man, right, let's get it together. Andy, with one from you here. Canelo, I really wanted the Bivol rematch, but Hearn said we had contract to fight Golovkin, so there you go.
Oh, there we go, mate. So probably, you know how Eddie likes to make these deals. So yeah, probably got myself tied into it. We were like Oscar did with Canelo, that he had to try and get the Golovkin fight made, and they end up kind of like signing them off basically. So yeah, I don't think Eddie or Canelo want that rematch, to be fair.
Absolutely not. Dominic nominated Prince Charles. King Charles, maybe now he is. Charles Martin eyes Joshua. I want to show him that he never fought the real me. he's a character, isn't he?
Fucking Charlie's in charge now, boys.
He's back.
Was the real him the one who got splattered by fucking Luis Ortiz? Or fucking no, we don't know. This is the real him now.
Charles Martin, he looked so awful in that fight against Joshua. I mean, he was so frightened. He looked like a fucking rapist or fucking victim staring the rapist down in court.
All he's thinking about during that fight, all he's thinking about $4 million coming my way, baby. About $1 million there after this fight's finished.
Sleeping on a big bed of money. Knock me out, Joshua. I'm going to land on a big bed of money.
Dude, Like if I was making that much money, I would have just dove in with all fucking sorts of zeal. Like fuck it, knock me out. I'm not gonna sit there like a bitch on the outside.
No, but the thing is, Matty, you would need to give a go because you end up having cries for having to have your fucking payment withheld because of non-effort.
If you'd have knocked me out, I'd have been in the fucking dressing room swimming in the money like Scrooge McDuck. I wouldn't give a fuck if I got Chaz Matton's money back.
I mean, do you see the effort we put in for $4.49 from our friend Ricky Gravel? Like, look at the effort we give in for that fucking money. Do you imagine what we would do for millions of dollars? It would be insane.
Exactly, mate.
Rob and I would be sober. It would be amazing.
I'd even follow Ricky Gravel on Twitter for millions of dollars.
we would all rent our arses out for fucking millions of dollars, mate. Cash, of course.
Well, he did pretty much, didn't he?
He said, fucking saying all the bit with Tony Bellew right beside him, man. If the money was right, I'd be right beside him saying this is a great domestic clash. This is what boxing needs. This DAZN.
DAZN. Javoy Davis needs to come to a platform like DAZN ASAP. No fights for you at Showtime, baby.
Nope, nothing doing. I needs to get over to DAZN with Oscar. Oscar says the truth is everyone is afraid of speaking the truth. The fight was a fucking dud. GGG was old ass fuck and Canelo can't hold up Hopkins' jockstrap. Hashtag.
Fucking hell, man. That proving was quality last night. I noticed it was quite early during the day. It was like midday for us, so he was still fucking partying, mate. He was still going strong.
What's with the owl emoji? Is that fucking Illuminati shit? What's he getting at there?
I don't know, mate. He's maybe seen the owls outside. That's what's probably happening. You know, he's probably kind of wandering about the street, seeing owls in the trees, that type of stuff. And that,
I've seen.
Maybe say Golovkin is an owl lad. I don't know.
Rob, I've seen that look, Rob. It's when you remove it from her mouth and shoot it in her eye.
Which one?
Anyway,
that was thing about it.
Banger number 5, motherfuckers. Banger number 5.
Oh, wait till the algorithms find this.
Count them as bangers. Fucking hell. That's where we are.
Anyway, talking of bangers, Oscar improved as the night went on. Someone said, David Earthley said, you're up early. Coke hasn't worn off, I see. And Oscar says, obviously you're speaking Roa, your daughter. I'm the mirror. I'm the mirror. What the fuck?
In the mirror, there's a mirror there somewhere, all right.
Oscar's
Pocket mirror
in the middle
on
with
the
his
table.
fucking fishnets and his fucking high heels on the gun. That's what he's doing. Snorting lines off his missus' his fucking titties or something like that.
Can we go to Isaac Lowe for a translation?
Obviously, you're speaking Roa, your daughter. I'm the mirror.
Can't feel my face when I'm with you, but I love it.
You just know Oscar was feeling no pain when he sent that shit, by the way. But right now, the fear and the come down off that shit is going to be horrendous. He's going
Who
to be
knows what was on that mirror, Andy?
He's going through his phone right now looking for receipts, and he's like, "Oh shit! Oh fuck me! Oh no way!"
Hotel California comes on the radio, tears stream down his face.
I'm wondering, is that a text he meant to send to someone and just fucking tweeted the guy by accident because he was like fucking in the wrong fucking app? Speaking road to your daughter, man.
Hey, Warrior Web. Oscar's going to be found in a hotel cupboard hanging with his fucking hanging while wearing tights. I could literally see that happening, by the way. The guy's a fucking, he's another degenerate fuckwit, by the way.
This carries on to the Shane Mosley thing. What is it with the two of these? Get off the fucking social media. I don't want to remember you like this. I want to remember you as great fighters, not a fucking absolute whack job. But in fairness, he was onto something with the first tweet, but the second one needs investigation.
Hey, Big A has a tweet just for you, or has a comment just for you there, Rob. Bohemian Grove Oscar.
Yeah,
Worshipping Moloch. Worshipping Moloch there.
How old is Roa's daughter, by the way? That's what we need to know. Oscar's
I don't know.
We don't want to know.
I'd say there was a straw by that mirror, though.
Exactly.
Oh, aye.
On the mirror.
Once upon a time, it was a rolled up 100. Might be a rolled up 5 still, but times are tough.
A rolled up 5, so you can join up to DAZN betting.
Hey, Matty, did you hear? Matty, did you hear that the British notes are not getting changed for the Queen's face on it?
Yeah,
because there's plenty of Charlie on the notes in that throughout Britain, you know. So.
I heard there's a large contingent of Australians who are trying to get Steve Irwin on the new money instead of Charles.
You're on one tonight, man. Anyway,
No, that was real. That's real, Steve.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's Aussies who want Steve Irwin over fucking Charles on their money.
Oh well. Anyway, talking of Aussies, Eddie Hearn has won a purse bid. Pleased to win the purse bid for the big All-Australian World Title clash between Ebony Bridges and Shannon O'Connell. Date and venue announced soon. Who
Why
said
was
Eddie can't
everyone
win
so
purse
shocked when he died, by the way, Steve Irwin? They're all so fucking surprised he died. He went fucking going around sticking his head in crocodile's fucking mouth for fucking 25 years. He gets caught by a stingray. Everyone's like, oh, can't believe it.
Hey, man.
He's asking for it.
Mate,
Fuck's sake.
Hey,
I wonder how much Eddie Hearn fucking bid on that purse bid for the Ebony Bridges fucking fight. I can guarantee it'll be like a discount for fucking buying a council house. Fucking about 10 grand possibly to fucking make that fight.
$5,000, I'm gonna say.
Fucking shite.
Yeah,
He's fucking
sorry.
out there pleased to win the purse bid. And what does Ebony Bridges say, Steve? Have you got her comment? Rob
not
might,
sure if
Rob
I have.
might want to,
Oh,
might
yeah,
want to
yeah,
come
yeah.
in here.
No, what did you, I don't think I've
Know
got
your
that one.
worth, baby. Know your worth.
She's gone from hero to villain quickly, hasn't she? Because she dispelled the fucking, what you call it,
Courtney.
the face of women's boxing. Who's what kind of face?
Can't
Women's
make weight
boxing.
because you're can't make weight
Shannon
because
Courtney.
it's a heavy flow that week.
Yeah, and Ebony kind of became the star, and she beat up that Argentinian one, and she pretended to support Leeds, and she was a kind of a cult figure on the pod. But like now, she's behaving as if like she's fucking like this big money draw. Like, what is she on about? Like she said Eddie purposely won this purse bid because # know your worth. He's not bidding against fucking Al Heyman and Bob Arum. It's some fucking pop-up promotional company in Australia that he won the fucking purse bid against. And he didn't even say fucking delighted to win. He said, pleased to win that, not as if I was fucking up against anybody. She's fighting a one called Shannon O'Connell. She hasn't even got a Twitter, the one she's fighting, right? It's not as if it's fucking Crawford Spence. Like, know your worth. What? This fight is worth shit. You're getting more than you fucking deserve for this fight, if you ask me. Absolute fucking trash. Honest to God. Like, who does this one think she is? And what's wrong with these? Do you know what? I used to not be annoyed by the fucking guys who were in the thread on it. But what is wrong with these fucking guys who are worshipping this one? Like, get a fucking life.
Guys that are actually buying the gear though, mate.
So, I got an idea, Rob. Check this out. Just hear me out. The Ebony Bridges Appreciation Society should all have a minimum of $20 to put in to do a purse bid for Ebony Bridges. And whichever one of them puts in the most money, the fight gets to be in their garden.
Well, some of them I heard were doing purse bids, other were doing like bra bids, sock bids, different type of bids.
The fight to be in their dungeon, more like.
I hope she gets her money and all that. Like, but when she's coming out with stuff like that, it's just like, who the fuck do you think you're the fool with this shit? She's fighting a one like nobody's ever heard of the one. I think it's an Australian girl as well, Shannon O'Connell or something like that, or O'Connor or something. But nobody's heard of this one you're fighting. What are you talking about? The purse bid was purposely fucking won at a high price because know your worth. You could have got that fucking fight for a meal and a hot shower. Get me not able.
The Dave promotions.
Father Dave could have put that fight on.
Yeah.
He just could have got the fucking the week's takings for the silver platter. At the chapel on Sunday and just fucking use that to buy the fight. Fucking $20 would have been enough.
Oh, Father Dave. Anyway, moving on. Dave Portney. Last time Julio Cesar Chavez watched Coco pre-fight. Tonight he's watching Despicable Me. Sitting on the Wii screens. What a legend.
Oh, fucking hell.
Tell you what, right? No one's going to fucking tell Chavez that's a poor choice.
Greg, how would they do it again anyway? Tell you that much.
That's for fucking sure.
Minions muy bueno.
Tyan Booth just accidentally drank his own piss live on YouTube.
Oh, fucking hell. What is he doing?
Pissing into the Echo Falls bottle, wasn't it?
Oh, did they fucking do it by accident or did they?
Well,
man.
Supposedly accident, but
I bet that was a bit tangy,
So he's down with the Ingles, isn't he? Tyan, so
bit of sweat in there.
Yeah, if you're willing to do that, it's not going to seem like a big deal when a chick pees on you.
I forgot about that Dominic Ingalls freaking drinking that.
Belly of the week for Mark Castro's box rec photo. Like a computer-generated Elon Musk.
Look at that. That hair looks fake, mate. And that face looks like, oh my god.
He got dazed in the corner before and they were saying to him,
what's that horse, man?
And Hey, are you okay?
There's the guard in the top corner, anyway.
You fucking crack
What's
that
going
open.
on with
You're
this
gonna
fella,
get.
man? Does he look like this normally? Like, or is this just?
No, I don't know what's going on there.
You crack that open, you're gonna get a fucking yolk and a white.
He looks like just a really bad sketch of someone. You know, the fellas in art are really bad doing the portraits. That's what he looks like, doesn't he? Look at his big mouth and all, and his small fucking.
That's a contest we should have, Steve. Is we should have our and for a free entry into the contest for the Conlon fan pack. Find us what you think is the most hilarious box rec profile picture for a fighter and send them to us. Like
I do not remember
think
that.
that'd be great to go through.
That is a good idea. There's some good ones out there I've found over the years, like that guy who's about 70 years old. Yeah.
Aye, what was they two guys? Remember the two guys from South America in their 50s or 60s, and they're like fucking fighting for like the 5th time.
Yeah, I can't remember who they were now, but yeah, we'll have to try
There's
and
an
find them.
Argentinian heavyweight fighting for the Argentinian heavyweight, something Omar Basilia or something like that. He's got spectacular tattoos.
Oh, Omar Basile, yeah, who fought Nikolai
That's the one.
Valiev. Yeah,
That's the one. Aye,
that's right.
fucking state that man.
Poor Tai Tu Ni Win looks like that bloke that Rob buys his opium from.
Opium. Opium. I
had to make the drug like for the culture of the person. Okay, he's from Southeast Asia. What do you want? I didn't choose what grows well there.
Rob by
the
fucking Bob Hopian.
Danny Young, Value of the Week nomination for my old man. I mentioned that the pod was doing Chicks with Dig now to him, and his response was, "That reminds me of being in Thailand." I had to say it was about women's boxing, and his response was, "Oh, I see what you mean. Caught red-handed."
Oh, mate, I was, mate. I'll add a wee bit to this. So I was actually in Danny was in Riga with his dad for the music Bears fight, and I was with him in the bar, and his dad was telling me some stories about this Thai bird, and his dad's name's Ricky, right? And you know how sometimes
everyone's got to know who he is now anyway.
Aye. Well, the thing is though, because the woman couldn't pronounce the R's properly, so they called him Licky. I was like, Licky
long time.
Me, Licky,
We're learning more about Danny's old man by the week here. Shout out to
good
Mr.
man,
Young.
Ricky.
Yep, good lad is Danny.
So this is Ricky Johnson who lives on 14th Street, Andy.
No, Ricky Young. It's Danny's dad, mate. Danny's dad, big Arsenal fan, but I can't say too much, man. I'll leave it to Danny to tell you.
You just have to give it a fucking photo fit description.
Yeah, no, but I didn't get into the details. It was a serial shagger, you know. So
Jesus Christ,
Ricky loves the Thai birds. Big Arsenal fan. Danny Young's there. You know him.
Oh, he's a gunner, mate. He's a gunner after all, isn't he? Got gun that, mate. She got to gun it.
Anyone who knows who Donnie is off of this is going to tie him to the N-word now too. I mean, it's just these things you say.
Donnie will not care. Final one from me then.
Fucking idiot.
Scotty Cardle came in with a good hot take. He said, "Performance enhancement drugs enhances maybe your endurance, strength, speed. It don't enhance your talent. Give Canelo the credit he deserves."
He hasn't thought that one through, has he?
You sick bastards. What's the matter with you?
Oh, by the way, I just noticed Oscar's deleted that tweet as well.
Oh.
So well done for catching the screenshot because he's
Not here, he hasn't.
Exactly.
We'll never forget.
Exactly.
Anyway, what have we got here?
By the way,
Andy,
for the listeners, you can go.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. You can go for the listeners. You can catch the fucking. If you ever want to go back to, we'll never forget. It's episode 299 because I was looking up some clips for the fucking 500 that I got to save to Steve. But it's one of the fucking funniest. Ozzy Smith, man, when he says, "Who's sitting at home thinking that bastard Tony Bellews demonizes?" It's fucking unbelievable. One of the funniest moments ever on the pod. Like, but anyway, sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
No, all good. We'll fish that out in time. Yeah, this is the Eubank one, Andy. I uploaded it, but I didn't have a chance to watch it yet. So if you've got any sort of precursors, let me know.
I'll let you know, mate. Remember that grass that used to run about London on the bike, videoing celebrities or people on their phone while driving the cars? He caught out Guy Ritchie. Don't know if anybody remembers it. Anyway, this is this guy who's caught Mr. Chris Eubank on his phone in his car. Now, if it was me getting caught out like that and this cunt's filming me, I'd have been out of the car fucking swapping hands. Eubank just takes it in his stride, so I'll let you watch it.
Excellent. Let's see here.
Film you using it and you get 6 points.
Yeah.
Did you read about Guy Ritchie?
I didn't actually. I read about David Beckham.
That was some other random person, but I was the one who got Guy Ritchie. Not that I didn't even know who he was.
Right.
Are you famous? I wouldn't know who you are either.
I'm just a guy. Speaking, how may I help? You happy, man?
Yeah, but you shouldn't be holding it, should you?
Hi. Go away. Go away.
You shouldn't be holding it, should you?
I'm an officer. Hi.
You're a police officer?
Yeah, off you go.
Should you be holding your phone?
Off you go.
No? I'll stay here.
Can I put you through
Through a red light? Because he's distracted on the phone?
Fucking wee grass. Just a really shite. Hope he gets ran by a fucking bucket lorry or something like that.
Why is that guy bothering him in the first place? What a fucking dick.
Because he's just one of those people that goes about London, mate, and he just like tries to catch people out, grasses them up, gets them on video, grasses them at the cops, and gets a license taken off them for driving with their phone or whatever and that. Fucking
What
hell.
a bastard, man. Who do that? Like, what the fuck? Like, I know road safety and all, don't have your phone on so in case you kill someone. But if you're driving a fucking Rolls Royce, you can do what you want. Basically, that's the rules. Everybody knows this.
He's sitting stationary at his fucking time, though.
Top down on his fucking Bentley. Piss off, man. Will you stop annoying me with your camera?
I want Chris Eubank against him in the next DAZN pay-per-view celebrity match.
Be careful what you wish for. Desperate times, Matthew.
Desperate measures.
Exactly. Desperate times call for desperate measures. That's all the ones that I've got. Any from you, Matty?
The folks on DAZN calling Triple G Triple H at one point in time. That was pretty good. I swear to God, I caught Diamante called him Triple V too. I swear to God, I heard him say that.
Triple V. Fuck me.
But I could be wrong. It just kind of caught me. Lip syncing the Cossack national anthem was pretty classic too. Really got into it.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he definitely put his body into that performance. He sold it. Definitely sold it.
At least one Kazakh sold out everything they had in the night, anyway.
There you go. And I think just those faux pas from the show last night. That's all I got.
Perfect. Thank you, Matty. Any more from you, Andy? I know you've thrown in a few already.
Yeah, just the one, mate. I can think of if I can recall anyway. Just the DAZN UK pay-per-view thing there last night. I didn't pay for it, as you know, but it just looked absolutely terrible. You couldn't hear the crowd that much. You couldn't hear Diamante doing the introductions. You couldn't hear the corners in between rounds very clearly. And you had Mannix doing Roman interviews in the corner. You couldn't even fucking hear it. And there's people complaining up the wazoo about the state of the internet or the quality, basically, the people who paid for it. They people Nick Holland for fucking comms. What happened to Costello? I thought Costello was the man for the fucking commentators these days. So yeah, I just thought the whole thing was just shit and amateurish. And there was one person actually complained to me saying that at the 7th round mark, the stream jumped for the 7th round to the fucking decision. So he knew straight away who won the fucking fight. He's like, fuck it, and didn't even bother watching the rest of it. So he was fucking raging. So I just put all around, and I maybe just put one in for myself, just for future, just for future, because there was a wee bit hope. I know Rob's not going to be too hopeful, but I'm hoping that Crawford Spence seems to be on the fucking go. So if that is the case, you can imagine Andy Patterson is going to be fucking dancing up down the fucking street to Marvin Gaye's "Got to Give It Up." Because I'll be fucking loving that one, baby. I'll be
Great
fucking
song.
swinging it a bit, baby. Bring it on. Bring it, fuck it. I cannot wait. And if that fight happens,
no, it's done in here.
I'll not get to it, but I will be up for it. Don't you fucking worry about that.
Yeah.
See, I was afraid given the picture you pulled up and Andy was talking. I thought Andy was going to say, I think Jim McDonald might be my real father. I didn't know where you were going. I had no idea, but he has that full head of hair. I should have known better. Yeah,
well, you're going to have to readjust to being a loyalist, so I don't know how you're going to deal with that one. But anyway.
You need to learn the words of God Save the King first. That's what you need to do.
Any from you, Rob, please?
Yeah, but just I said today it's too late to cut, obviously, but it's the listeners should go to Floyd's Instagram, man. He's back with the baby goats again on his weekly online gamble pick, and he's feeding these goats money, $100 bills, putting them in their mouth and all. And like I started to think, then could Anthony Crolla do a fucking documentary about how fucking Oscar and Floyd sacrificed their souls to the Illuminati because Floyd's wearing a big red t-shirt where he has this baby goat. It's like, can we find a Baphomet in the fucking TMT logo or something like that to make this interesting? Oscar's tweeting out the fucking Owl of Moloch, and Floyd is fucking sacrificing baby goats just to fucking win a sports bet. So it's about the height of it for me.
This is your Bielsa dud bet of the week.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Right, okay, let's quickly recap them here. Fuck, I didn't realise it was 10 past 11. My missus going bonkers here. Anyway, let's get on quickly.
She's waiting for you, mate. She's waiting for you.
I flipped my ass. She's waiting to knock my bollocks in like your story from earlier, Andy. I think. That's about all there is to it. So yeah, shout out to Joe for that one from Saul Farrer. We had the phone booth. We had the guard with his painted toenails. We had Eddie wearing whatever that was. DAZN just being themselves. We had Sonny Davis about James Cook. We had Marcos Villegas talking about Canelo Calzaghe. We had Ben and Eubank. We had the Australians. We had Joe Parker playing a fictional drug-dealing contract killer in no way related to real life. We had Steve Bunce talking about fights and viewerships that had yet to happen. We had Williamson fighting Leo Santa Cruz if he had about 90 fights and ended up at light heavyweight. We had the homeless Hobbit, Joe Markowski. The actual Hobbit in the ring on Friday night. We had DAZN with their £5 bet trying to entice Matty in. We've got Canelo. We've got Prince Charles. We've got Oscar. What else have we got here? We've got Eddie Hearn winning purse bids. We've got Chavez watching Despicable Me. We've got Tyan drinking his piss. We've got Mark Castro. We've got Danny Young's dad. Scotty Cardle and the videos. Joe Joyce calling out Parker. We had Joe Markowski and Chris Eubank as well. Quite a lot this week. Matty, who are you going for out of that motley crew?
Man, that's really tough, but I think I have to go with the Joe Parker, playing Joe Parker in a movie, but not really realizing the whole thing of it all. I think that's just pretty good, all in all.
Excellent. Joe Parker featuring in Romeo Hotel 11. Who are you going for, Andy?
Oscar de la Coco, mate.
Yeah, that's who I'm going for as well.
It's too easy, mate. You see what I'm saying? See, like, he's got the come down fear now, mate. He's deleting tweets. He's just realised that it's fucking too late now, baby. So Twitter never forgets, you know.
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. Obviously, you're speaking, Roa, your daughter. I'm the mirror.
But that's going to be my pick as well. Like, obviously, because I must say this, but like, it's kind of tragic, in it, like, that Oscar is in this state because he's clearly meant to send that message to somebody. Like, he's not talking back to the guy that's fucking said that to him on Twitter. Like, he's got to say that's why he's deleted it. Like, or maybe he's fucking sent it back to the guy on Twitter. Either way, it's as fucking scary as the next scenario. Like, so Oscar was obviously hyped up for the fights last night, and he probably had a better time watching them than most of us because it was a fucking stinker.
Oh, mate, I was terrible to watch.
Yep, certainly was. Congratulations, though, Oscar. He enjoyed himself nonetheless. You are the Bellew of the Week for episode 492. Thank you to Ricky Graville who threw in the solo super chat after 3 hours, 11 minutes as well tonight. Thank you to you, Ricky.
Gal gets a special mention as well. But what age is he, by the way, painting his fucking toenails black? Get a life. Fucking age. Yeah. He's 70 years of age, man. Relax. Or maybe he has that fucking...
He's definitely late 50s at least. Got to be.
Yeah, I think he's late 50s. Yeah.
Is that all he is? Tough life.
I think he's about 58
journalism.
or something, yeah.
It's a very hard life of journalism.
Yeah, I know, but mate, you know, that the LSD tablets take a fucking lot out of you, though, you know. You don't sleep for fucking 3 days on end.
And final shout out to anybody who wants to join us over on patreon.com/boxing asylum. Nobody joined up this week, but we did do a Nutters call. You can jump on them and join the Nutters WhatsApp group if you wish in the future. Thank you.
But if you don't do that, right, we're over the fucking Patreon. We get it. You don't want it. But give us the fucking likes and the, what you call it, on. We never make a big deal about that, but hit the like button. Come on. The fuck. We were going to do like a special show for you and all if we got 100 likes, 3 episodes in a row. You did it 1 episode, like, pathetic.
It was sad, yeah. It was
Hashtag
sad.
fuck the fans, Matty.
Fuck the listeners.
Apparently, Steve, hashtag fuck us.
Yeah, I suppose that's what they're kind of saying to us, eh?
No sponsorships, no advertisements put on the YouTube. Just
God, yeah, if it stays up like this, you are going to have to take on some of those ad opportunities you've turned down.
Yeah, we've been
over
knocking them
all
all
the
back.
time, Steve.
But mate, we've knocked back about 5 opportunities to go corporate, and we've said no because they want creative control and they want us. I'm like, nah, we're not doing that.
I'm just hanging out for fucking Manscaped to contact us so we
They
can start
did.
fucking
They
advertising.
have done. I told them
Have
to
they?
fuck off. Yeah.
Why are we taking that fucking Manscaped? I'd say shave your
fuck
balls
off,
every
man.
week on an ad if they fucking.
I got one.
Shave
Did
them
you
up.
get one? I got one. I went away with the wife on Friday night there, so I shaved mine before I went. Fucking quality, I put extra couple inches on mine, I must admit.
Manscaped, but if Manscaped does want to take us on, they have to send us their product first to me, so I can shave my balls, and then you guys, I'm going to send it to you guys to send to Rob. Just don't tell him. So, anyways, I'd like to thank Donnie for briefly being on here. I'd like to thank Steve, Andy, and Rob Kelly for being on the call. And a big special thanks to Otto Wallin for coming on and giving us his thoughts on his career and the current state of the heavyweight division. We truly appreciated that. Otto, pure class, pure class.
We're giving you Otto Wallin. You won't even give us a few likes. You'll be getting your balls shaved for the rest of your fucking Boxing Asylum days if you don't like that button. And that's it.
But at least you'll be able to get 20% off with the code Boxing Asylum at checkout. Just wait. You forced our hand, damn it. You forced our hand. But anyways, I appreciate everybody for being on here today. The panel are a great guest, Otto Wallin. I've been your host, Matt DiGianardo. We will see you next week to go over the Joe Joyce fight. And then there's basically nothing to talk about after that. So remember, send us through Twitter and all those different places. Send us your favorite box rec profile pictures of fighters, and we'll go through some of the good ones next week. Until then, I've been your host, Matt DiGianardo. You all have a fantastic week ahead. Be well.
Tell us about the tattoos.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to Adam move! We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking wank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't it? 7-year ain't it? I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.